Okay. Oh. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Now, in response to that comment, I think, first of all, when he say that they don't listen to their constituents, the ones you're going to hear from are the negative ones. The positive ones, the guy, people for it, you don't hear much. Yeah, and you still have to do what's going to be best for the community. Or what you feel is best for the community. This, I would almost apply that same philosophy to the old RCA plan. That there was some things that they were supposed to do initially, they never did, as far as screening. So I think we can. I think there needs to be more screening between the two properties. If we're going to make it industrial again, with an industrial, they could go out and they could start doing mulch there. You could do regrinding soil and all that stuff like they're doing out on Route 12. You know, that's not very sightly. And they could even come and build another building on that site. You know, he's got all that parking out there laid out. They don't need that parking. Oh, I didn't realize that there's a pond back there behind that first row of trees. So what they're talking about buying is just from these trees on out. Morning. I was supposed to ask.
I guess it's only over to the Smith Road that's going.
Well, I would assume it goes down to. But they're talking about the next property too. They're buying all that, I think, so they want the whole thing here for residential. So I assume they're going all the way down to the existing residential that's to the west there. I was supposed to ask, somebody asked me something. I said, I'll ask Matt tomorrow, and I can't remember what it was.
Maybe it'll come to you.
Maybe.
Oh, I got invited to talk to Tom Ross and all his bandits the other night. I didn't get shot. No, it really went pretty well.
You're all intact?
It's an angry group for sure. I mean, it's an anti-government, anti-mayor, I mean, it's an angry crowd. I mean, and Tom is the instigator, absolutely. And he speaks a lot of half-truths, and he... No. Oh.
All right, good morning. Welcome to the October 12th, 2023 meeting of the City of Findlay City Planning Commission. Roll call.
Mayor Marin.
Here.
Mr. Martin.
Here.
Mr. DeArmond.
Here.
Ms. Schroeder.
Here.
And Mr. Klinger.
Here.
Very good. At this time, anyone who plans to speak for or against an item, if you could please stand and raise your right hand to be sworn in.
Wow.
All right. Do you affirm that all the testimony and evidence you are about to give in a case before this commission this day will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and will conform to the facts of the case and the rules of this commission? This you affirm under the pains and penalties and of perjury. Please say I do.
Wonderful. Thank you. You may be seated. We have the prior meeting minutes from September 14th, 2023. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Were there any modifications?
No.
Hearing no modifications, all in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Minutes are adopted. Moving on to tabled item number 1. I will give a fair warning. We are going to rearrange the new business items just a little bit. I know there are some folks here that would like to speak on the McPherson project that have to leave to get back to work. So we're going to move the McPherson project up to new items. So that will be the next item on the agenda. Tabled item number 1, application for zoning amendment ZA-09-2023 filed by Nipper Industrial Holdings LLC to rezone lots 1, 5, and 6 of the Findlay Center for Business and Technology located at 1700 Fostoria Avenue from C2 General Commercial to I1 Light Industrial. CPC staff comments.
So this request is located on the north side of Fostoria Avenue near the intersection with Broad Avenue. It is zoned C2 General Commercial. To the west, it is zoned R3 Small Lot Residential. To the south, it is zoned a mix of R1 Large Lot Residential and M2 multifamily. High density. It is not located within the 100-year floodplain, and the City of Findlay Land Use Plan designates the parcel as regional commercial. Parcel history, this site is currently home to Shelley Company and Metzger Breckheisen LLC. It's housed a number of businesses over the years since the closing of RCA. Originally, the parcel was zoned industrial for the RCA site. In 2004, it was part of a planned unit development that had a mix of commercial and industrial uses. Lots 1, 5, and 6 were listed in the PUD as business technology zoning, which allowed for a mix of commercial and industrial uses. And after the PUD was removed from the zoning code, the parcel was given C2 general commercial zoning in 2011.
Thank you.
Staff analysis. So at the September 14th CPC meeting, the item was tabled for further discussion between the applicant and their neighbors regarding some outstanding items regarding the site. This included a maintenance plan for the drive that loops around the 3 outlots with additional, and they also wanted to look into additional landscaping and screening for the outdoor storage on site. For the truck traffic, the applicant explored the idea of putting the truck traffic at the intersection kind of in the middle of the site at the intersection. Difficulties arise when the truck turn radius is accounted for, though. There would be need to be a number of adjustments to the stacking to allow the truck's proper width for turning in and out of the site, as shown in the exhibits that were provided to CPC. They have submitted a new landscaping sheet to show the islands in the new parking area. This will add to the screening and delineate the parking area from those drive aisles. Given this additional information, staff was feeling more confident that the applicant will maintain the site to better align with the requirements of the I-1 Light Industrial District. Staff recommendation. Staff recommends approval of the application for zoning amendment ZA-09-2023 filed by Nipper Industrial Holdings LLC to rezone lots 1, 5, and 6 of the Findlay Center for Business and Technology, 1700 Fostoria Avenue, from C2 General Commercial to I-1 Light Industrial.
Engineering.
No comment.
Fire prevention.
No comment.
So the recommendation before the commission is staff recommends that FCPC recommend approval of the application for zoning amendment ZA-09-2023 filed by Nipper Industrial Holdings LLC to rezone lots 1, 5, and 6 of the Findlay Center for Business and Technology, 1700 Fostoria Avenue from C2 General Commercial to I-1 Light Industrial. Discussion. Dan?
Yeah, I would like to go ahead and just kind of address some of the comments that came from the previous meeting that we addressed, give you a little more information on what we did. The first thing I want to talk about is the landscaping. There was discussion when this plan came through back, I believe, in '09, when they were doing this outdoor storage to do some additional landscaping. At that time in 2009, the current landowners did work with the homeowners association, and they did fill in some of the gaps and put in additional trees there. So this buffer here has been enhanced back in '09, and it looks pretty well established, and I think they did a good job there. The other concern that was brought up is about the landscaping and the screening of the current trucks that are out there today. We've been discussing trying to establish this actual access route. So by defining, there's a couple islands. There's already one here, and there's one here. And then, so with the introduction of the additional islands, it will create the drive aisle as well as set up for potential future parking. We represented that on the plans that you have to kind of show the intent for parking in there to kind of set everything up. With this landscape in the islands, what we are proposing to do is install a juniper tree. Juniper trees are typically not installed in landscaped islands. However, the juniper tree will be green all year long. The height and size of these are going to be about, I think, 6 to 8 feet wide and about 10 to 12, 14 feet tall. So again, they're going to be green. We're doing 2 per island, and the intent there would be to create a green visual barrier between anything down here looking north into the existing trucks. We didn't want to get anything much larger than that because once you go higher, you also go wider, which then would be a deterrent, or it would impact that drive aisle. So we felt by picking these particular junipers, they're going to be high enough to cover the backside of the trucks or shield the trucks that are there. The width of them would still maintain inside that island, and I think it would be a good thing. So what we've done there, this exhibit here, you can also see kind of the existing and or planned landscaping. When the Croys came in this year with their plan for their building, it was the recommendation of the board to go ahead and enhance that landscape or island there, again, to create the drive aisle. So what they have here is, you have more smaller flowering trees with some shrubs and stuff there. So the introduction there will also, those trees will help block, again, provide some barrier. We tried to show the approximate location of the different trees and shrubs and stuff on the bank. So again, we're doing the best we can to try to provide a visual barrier that makes sense for the development and try to screen everything from there. Like I said, the access aisle was the other concern. There is currently deed restrictions in place that spell out exactly who's responsible for the maintenance of that. So any additional agreements or maintenance things would still fall under that. So we feel that the current one that's in place, recorded, a legal document, there's really no real reason to do another thing. Obviously, now that all of the owners are aware that it is all on lot number 1, it's not a shared thing. So I think now knowledge is helpful. So with that being said, the owners are going to be a little more apt to understand whose responsibility it is, maintain as needed, because if they're going to be using this, they're not going to want potholes and stuff there, so they're going to want to make sure it's in good shape. One thing that also was discussed was the truck traffic pattern. Right now, they're all coming in along the west side. Mayor, you asked that we kind of look at, can we bring in the vehicles one way and take them out the other way? So the initial intent, what we did is we showed the trucks coming in the west side, doing what they do, and then trying to leave at the traffic signal. However, based on the current traffic lane striping and signalization, the semi-truck that you see kind of coming through here going eastbound would, in reality, have a negative impact on if any cars are parked at the traffic light. So we feel that this is more dangerous than anything. They don't have the ability to swing out further because they would be off the road. So if they try to stay in the road and there are cars parked there trying to turn left or go forward, you can see the tail end of the trailer would impact those cars. We also looked at that same scenario if they were to go westbound. And I don't know if you have that slide, the next one. You can see there, again, it takes out 5-6 vehicles. So what we looked at then was we looked at trying to bring these semis in the signalization. Matt, if you can go to the next slide. You can see that they're able to swing through here and get into the current access, which would then get them back in there. So what we're looking at doing is trying to get with the truck drivers, put some signage and stuff in here that would direct them to come in the light and then go out the other side as they currently do today. I believe those were the three main concerns that were brought up last time, so we wanted to present the updated drawings to you for your consideration and further discussion.
So you're saying the trucks would go out the west entrance or the
Correct.
west?
As they currently do today.
Is there turning radius issues in the west end?
They're currently doing it today, so we're assuming that they're making that work without being at a signal with, people parked there. With the west side, it's an unsignalized intersection, so if people aren't going, they're going to turn. If people are coming, they're going to stop. Where here, if everybody's stopped at the actual signal itself, and if they try to turn, they can't, and then at that point they're kind of stuck, or they're running a red light, or creating more of a backup, and then these people will have to literally reverse in order for the semis to get in. So we felt based on the current configuration of the lane lines and the traffic signal, it'd be better to bring them in this way and out the west side as they're currently doing today.
But the current lines where the traffic stops, those could be adjusted.
They could, but again, if you look, Matt, if you can go back to 2 slides, please. They're going to have to bring this left turn lane back almost 60, 70 feet in order to get that to clear, which does not work for the traffic signals and lane lines and stuff like that. So it does not.
Isn't that better than having all that traffic down by all those houses and I don't know.
So I'll jump in here. Dan, I appreciate you working through all these issues. Dan reached out to Matt Cordogna and myself and Jeremy, and we sat and worked through and talked about these. That's why he put together the graphics, because obviously reconfiguring that intersection would be expensive and intensive for the city. But what this does do is kind of our intention at the last meeting is, it helps break up the traffic flow. Currently, they're really just kind of going through the western entrance for both in and out. And by trying to encourage and doing some signage there, you're at least splitting that truck traffic in half. Additionally, if you recall, it's only about 20 trucks a day. So significant, but not hundreds of trucks. And so I think that really addresses, my primary concerns. Additionally, with the landscaping buffers, I think that will be really nice to provide some shading and kind of the visual barrier on the concrete jungle that is back there. But, I know one of the other concerns was just the noise by those buildings. Unfortunately, as I looked at it, I drove through there. I think that the property is probably getting a little more traffic. That western corner property is probably getting more noise from just being right on 12 than the vehicles going in and out of the parking lot. And so I think there might be an opportunity. I haven't reached out to the property owner. I'm sure they're here somewhere, about maybe adding some additional landscaping in that area to provide a sound barrier. But that is on that property owner's property, not on the applicant's property. So overall, I feel like this meets the concerns I had. I'm glad to hear that you guys are, just paying attention to the deed restrictions on the maintenance. Again, I looked at that access road, and though there, are a couple holes and some areas for improvement, it's not terrible, but I think hopefully everybody will pay attention and get that improved a bit.
One thing also to note, the work, assuming this does get approved or recommended for approval, they're going to go ahead and they would like to start the construction on those islands and those trees yet this year.
Very good.
I'd agree if it's only 20 trucks a day, but if it gets sold and a trucking company moves in, it could be 100. So I think we got to look at what potentially it could be in the future.
Yeah, once we change it to I, then we really have no further control over how that's handled. Dan, on the northern end, and you can see it there, of the residential area, that landscaping is pretty thin there. Could they enhance that, because that's really where a lot of the truck traffic's going to go and stuff back there too. It was to be on the. You said they did that in 2009, but up there at the north end, there's not a lot of landscaping there.
Where are you referring to, Dan?
Right there.
Okay.
Yeah, right up in here. You can see that most of the landscaping stops pretty much right in there. Other than that, it's not too bad. Also, just to point out, if somebody didn't pick up on it, under the information that was submitted with the application, the original development called for 2 rows of pine trees along here. Well, obviously that can't be done now because of the power lines and everything that's there, but one thought might be as whether they could do a solid fence along there too, to kind of screen that residential area a little better.
I think we'd like just to keep the landscaping that's there. If I'm not mistaken, I think there is some type of fencing up there. Jeff, do you know? Wherever you went.
Not any solid fencing.
It's just chain link up there, right?
Yeah, well, but there's not a solid.
Yeah.
There is like a horse fence.
Okay.
Jacob, have we heard any concerns from that neighborhood? I know we had spoke with a couple of them, and they asked just what the plan was, but we have not heard any concerns about the landscaping barrier. I agree. I would prefer that we just keep the landscaping barrier. I think adding a fence poses a couple of other issues, and actually it causes some other problems. I think the landscaping is much nicer than having a huge big fence along there.
I guess what I'd like to recommend or propose would be to leave it the way we have it planned, and if the city does start getting some concerns about that, or the owners, then we can address it at that point.
How do we address it at that point? Nobody's going to come back and review the application.
Reach out to myself or the owners and say, hey, we're getting complaints on there.
One of the thoughts that I had too, Dan, you had all these islands going down here, and obviously I don't think that we will ever see required parking like what is shown there. Could we maybe connect 2 of the islands and just have openings once in a while? Because even if they do develop parking there someday, that's a lot of thoroughfares or a lot of motor access coming out into that access way, similar to what was done over here.
The reason that was done over there was to separate the 2 different users. Shelley wanted that separate from everywhere else, so that's why that little gravel was put there.
You're right.
This is no different than Walmart or Meijer or any other thing where you have landscaped islands delineating the parking stalls. I guess we'd like to keep them that way because this is kind of a concept that they've seen over the years and they're okay with that parking configuration. I guess closing them off would, possibly create more of an issue in the future. Again, without knowing exactly what is going in there, Dan, I understand where you're
Yeah.
coming from, but at least this way sets up a true parking area that, if they do need the parking, it's already set up there and they can go ahead and they can establish the parking from there.
Okay. Another thought too, if you're bringing trucks in here, if this last island, if your truck route went right here, it would make that turn a lot better than trying to do that turn. And just to eliminate, well, actually you could create a little island over here, but take the truck traffic through here. Makes it a much easier turn for them.
Yeah, I mean, what we did is we tried to create as many landscaped islands as we could. We did run the truck turn back through there. That's why we have these striped islands over in this area here. So as the truck does come that way, I mean, I would not want to create a little island here and force them to go that way. If anything, we could just eliminate this and leave all this wide open for maneuverability. But like I said, that's why we did this island here, was to define this, and we needed to keep this open to maintain a truck turn radius.
Was there anyone else here that wanted to speak for or against this item? If you could come forward and introduce yourself, please.
I'm Ray Van Gutten, and I'm the owner of the property right down here. And I do still have the same concerns. We just did an analysis of the traffic right there at that intersection, but we did no analysis on the intersection there. And I will tell you, there's no stop sign, there's no stoplight there at that intersection right now. I should probably put a stop sign up there too, so that for the safety of the people coming out of there. So I still have concern of the safety issue at this intersection down here. They are running through the edge of my property. You can see the mud on the property too. Not a lot, it's probably about 2 feet, but you can see right where the wheels of the truck go. And, this summer it hasn't been bad because it's not wet, but let's wait till the winter time and it'll get pretty nice in there. I also have concern with, if you go through the restrictive covenants and it'd be section 6, the storage, it says no materials or supplies shall be stored or permitted to remain on any part of the property made a part of the Findlay Center outside the buildings constructed thereon, unless such materials are stored in the rear yard or an area which they are stored is surrounded by a concrete or masonry wall approved by the developer. Then it goes on with the finished products being stored out there. There's no concrete wall. There is a fence, chain link fence back there right now. But I mean, a concrete wall would probably solve all these the island issues there. If you kept everything back behind the concrete walls. And then probably my last concern is this has been zoned C2 since 2007 or 2012, and there's been trucks running in and out of there. I know for several years, but it's really intensified in the last 2 or 3 years. If you get a trucking company back there, who knows what it could be? Then we wouldn't have any say in it. So those are my 3 contentions, really.
The only thing I would mention, and I think we mentioned it at the last meeting, is obviously on the covenants, the deed, that's a civil arrangement. So we can't really consider that here. We are aware of it. I know we've reviewed it and we brought up some of the concerns at the last meeting, but since those things are not specifically addressed within the zoning code, that's not really in the purview of this commission. So you guys would need to work that out individually between the property owners.
And that would affect the fencing for the screening for the storage, is that? Or-
Potentially, based off of what he
Okay.
shared, but
Okay.
again, that would have to be worked out with the property owners.
All right.
That's a civil matter.
But I do think we need to do analysis on that entranceway, just the same analysis we did down here, to really see what it is. And I would like to get a good count on the number of trucks in and out of there, because I beg to differ that it's a little more than 20. So,
Well, the other thing is what it could be in the future. I mean,
Yeah.
if it gets sold, it could be a trucking company. It could be, literally
Exactly.
hundreds. I mean, it could be, so once, if it gets changed to industrial, it could be different.
and originally, when that was RCA and it was zoned industrial, that was like a little one-lane road where cars came into the parking lot.
Yeah.
It was not used as a truck entrance. The truck entrance was down at the main entrance, so.
So the trucks turned at that entrance at one time or another then,
Down by me?
down by the light.
Yeah.
Well, how big a deal would it be Matt, can you show that intersection better, please? Okay. I mean, is it, I don't know, what does, do you have the other drawing where they're going left at that light instead of right? There you go. Okay. What would it take to enhance, make this wider right here? I don't know, what does that even look like right there? I can't remember, but is that just grass or is it a ditch or what is that right there?
There is a small roadside swale there, Dan. Trees and grass there. And I think it does drop off a little bit.
I mean, the one thing you gotta look at too is how you align your traffic from one side to the next. I mean, you don't want to have a turn lane and a straight lane all lined up across from each other, because then, if you kind of have an offset, that's where accidents are prone to happen. I mean, even in this situation, those trucks are, well, I guess when they're pulling into that, those trucks are swinging into that turn lane to even make that turn now. I mean, to do that type of, widening of that road, that's a complete intersection upgrade. It's not just a simple add asphalt. I know what you're
Yeah. All right, fair
saying
enough.
there.
Okay.
It's doable, but it's a
Yeah.
good upgrade on that.
I could see how that would be a problem because you get two lanes going down into one right there, and that would be a problem. Okay.
And Jeremy, can you talk real quick, because I am not an engineer, I don't try to be one, but it makes sense, kind of going back to Mr. Van Gutten's point, on the unsignalized intersection, the reason you don't have the issues with the turn radius is because people aren't stacking there. And so you're not going to be turning when other vehicles are immediately there. So that's why they're able to swing into the other lanes of traffic to make their turns, where that poses an issue here.
Is
Yeah.
there go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I mean, this is, I think, a little tighter situation than even what we have downtown here. I mean, you can see those trucks trying to make the turn onto West Main Cross or onto 12. I mean, that's a tight turn for them. We have that stop bar back as far as we can, without affecting our signal timing, because we have all those opticons, or all our cameras are there that pick up when vehicles are there. So if you have someone in that turn lane that's set back too far, then we're never going to pick them up, and they're going to be sitting there indefinitely almost.
Is there a way we can protect Mr. Van Gutten's property and that turn so they're not running over the corner of his property? Or
Dan?
Is that even ours?
Dan, Dan, do you want to come forward and talk about that? I'm assuming
Yes.
you've looked at it.
Where are you done?
Can you, we just need you, if you're going to speak, to come up to the microphone, because this is being live streamed and recorded.
Matt, if you can zoom out a little bit with that, please. So, first thing to talk about, Ray's talking with the outside storage, all of that stuff has been removed. Any storage material has been taken out. The only thing that they have right there now is trailers. And they said, the intent is not to have outside storage. Again, new owners, new work, they understand the restrictive covenants. They'll comply with that if it ever comes that way. The one thing that will help this intersection now is if the trucks do come in here, they're going to be exiting this way. So now they won't be trying to cut this corner. The other thing that they talked about too, Matt, if you can bring it down just a little bit this way. Oh, the other way. There you go.
They're
right
cutting
there.
the corner on the inbound.
They're
That's what you're
cutting it
saying.
on the
I got it.
inbound.
Okay.
So now this is going to be an outbound. The other thing that the new user said is a potential would be to come in this way, do their things, and then come back out this way to try to minimize the amount of trucks that are coming on this service road. Again, this the whole use of it's changing, So that would be a thing there that now that they're coming in off the road, coming straight through, do their thing, coming out this way, trying to avoid as much, that service drive as much as possible. Matt, if you can go back down to this here.
Ray, does that make sense to you in this protected
Again,
corner?
They're
Yeah.
cutting that corner.
to come in.
Yeah,
They're coming in this way,
But if
and their
we change
trailers
the
are getting
flow,
in there. So
it-
now they're going to be coming out this way. So it should eliminate
Yeah.
the truck
Yeah.
tires and stuff going through.
I
Ray's
agree.
property.
Ray, do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Just one thing about that intersection deal, there's 95% of the trucks go, eastbound there.
So you're saying they're coming in this way?
No.
This way?
When they depart, they go.
This way?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this way, they're going to be coming down, and they have all
Yep.
of this area to swing now. So obviously, typically, the tires that run through grass areas are the tail end of a trailer. This way here, when the trucks come out here, they're gonna turn. Their tail end will be in this wider area. And the other thing I can do too is I can go ahead and do a truck turn analysis on this and submit it. So Mary, you have it and you understand kind of how that goes. I can also share a copy of it with Ray as well, so he understands how that exiting maneuverability will work.
Very good. One item that was brought up earlier by Mr. Klinger, I just want to comment on is I think he referenced the thinner screening on the north side, kind of that back side, and it appears that looks to be a utility easement. So I think that's
correct.
part
There-
of the reason that.
Yeah, there is a utility easement that you can see these wooden things. That's the new overhead power line that came back to the substation. So, anything that we would have to do would be, again, on the opposite side of the property.
Okay, but you can also see that on the, and I agree, that is a utility and it's either sewer in there and whatnot, but you're saying in 2009 they came in and did a lot of this landscaping. Would there be an opportunity to complete that along?
I was not involved with the negotiations. Those people could have been fine with that at that point. They were working with the homeowners association. I would assume that everything is fine for the simple fact, one, we haven't gotten any feedback from those neighbors. And like I said, they worked with the homeowners association. So like I said, Dan, without knowing or having a feedback from them, they may not want any other additional landscaping on their property too. I don't know.
With the islands that you're putting in and landscaping, will those two plants in each island fill that island?
The island itself is going to be probably,
30 foot?
well, it should be about 36 to
Yeah.
40 feet. So I guess no.
I'd like to see other maybe landscaping in between where it could fill in. Not necessarily tall landscaping, but at least some ground type landscaping.
Okay.
And if we're going to do this, is the owner acceptable to continue that paving improvement all the way along there too, and striping that access road?
I think as needed, they're willing to do it as needed, but
Well, it's
kinda
kinda
said
needed.
right now, she even drove by it. There's one or two potholes. That'll be fixed. There's no striping anywhere else throughout the development, so to create lane lines through there, I don't think is necessarily needed. The creation of the edge of pavement. How come you guys always give me one that doesn't work? Edge of pavement here is defining the roadway.
Right.
Again, it's not a roadway. You typically don't see lane lines and stuff on internal drive aisles.
I think as any car and truck traffic increases, to me it seems desirable to at least try to create that, to try to give people an identity of where they need to go. Now, granted, the trucks aren't going to be able to stay in a lane necessarily as they're making some of those sweeps, but I just think it would enhance the flow of traffic there. and make it a little safer. Just a suggestion at that point.
Was there anyone else that wanted to speak for or against this item?
So Dan, I appreciate the conversation, appreciate the efforts.
Hey, Rob, can you hold on 1 second?
And one thing I would just mention while they're having that discussion, you know, this is always a interesting dynamic as we work through these things. Obviously today we're really talking about a zoning amendment, not a site plan review. So I appreciate you guys working to make all of the accommodations and feedback that we've provided to make sure that we're comfortable. But I would just, you know, recognize that a lot of, you know, we appreciate you taking the feedback and listening to it and making the changes and doing all of that as we've been working through this process.
In regards to Dan Klinger's comments, I agree with Dan in filling it up. I would almost prefer another item of height.
Height, yeah.
Just typically, I would 2 heights and then smaller in the middle. But in this case, with the screening being the objective,
I mean, if you're okay with going 3, we'll throw 3 in per island.
Yeah.
I think that
The
would
screening requirements on C2 to I1 is level 3, which even at that, we're not meeting the level 3 screening, I don't think, totally.
again, this this isn't a site plan.
Yeah.
This factory's been here for 50 years, so we're kind of walking this line. You know, this has been zoned for industrial for almost 50 years. So we're trying to, and the applicant's being receptive too, as the mayor just spoke about.
Yeah.
We're trying to walk that line of site plan review versus rezone.
Yeah.
If this was a factory being constructed new, the screening requirement, level 3 screening requirements would be required. I did go out and I drove that fence row, the landscaping row here, and it is pretty substantial. And there is the challenge of the power lines. Even if we wanted to add more landscaping, I wasn't quite sure where or how we would do that. But I did feel comforted that the existing vegetation there is pretty substantial, mature pine trees. These are smaller arborvitae, but
Yeah. Plus,
even this picture's a couple of years old.
with them being staggered, Dan, they're gonna keep growing. So that line there most likely will turn into this. It's gonna take a few years,
Yeah.
because you wouldn't be able to really put more in there, especially with those pines being staggered. If you can put stuff in front and behind, but it's not creating additional barrier, it's just adding more, more landscaping back there that may not effectively do anything.
So Dan, appreciate all the efforts, making the accommodations and adjustments, understanding what this site has been and what the intent is. I would make a motion to approve this zoning amendment.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any final discussion on this item?
And just a reminder, this is a recommendation. At noon, the Planning and Zoning Committee will make a recommendation, and then City Council will take those recommendations and approve it or deny it appropriately.
Very good. Thank you. All right. We have a motion and a second. Jacob, whenever you're ready.
Mayor Murin,
Aye.
Mr. Martin,
Aye.
Mr. DeArmond,
Aye.
Ms. Schroeder,
Aye.
Mr. Klinger.
Aye.
Very good.
Thank you for your
Dan.
time.
All right. Moving on to item number 7 from the agenda, but we're going to move that up to accommodate some folks who have to take off. So application for site plan review SP-23-2023 filed by Andec LLC to construct a 3-story, 16-unit apartment building at parcel 60000302210 on West McPherson Avenue. CPC staff comments.
So this request is located on the south side of West McPherson, just east of the intersection with Hurd Avenue. I copied and pasted a previous month's comment. So it says it's currently in the process of rezoning, but it actually has been rezoned to O1 office institution. It is in the neighborhood of R1 large lot residential, and originally it was part of a PUD for the Lake Cascades Park. It is not located within a 100-year floodplain. Personal history: the site is currently vacant. Staff analysis: the applicant has resubmitted a site plan for the site. Originally, the site plan called for a 3-story, 24-unit structure. CPC had recommended approval contingent upon the zoning being approved and the applicant receiving variances for the density and the parking. The zoning was approved by City Council. However, the BZA denied the variances for the density and parking. Given their denial, the applicant has reworked the site plan to meet the zoning standards. Instead of the 24 units, they've dropped it down to 16, which is under the density for the site. The first floor would have 4 units, which would be 2 units of 2 bedrooms and 2 units of single beds. The second and third floor would have 6 units each, all being single bedroom units. They have kept the number of parking the same from the original plan, but with the reduction in units, now they have more than enough to accommodate the site. Site layout is in line with what was originally proposed. The landscaping will remain as originally submitted and had met the standard. They applied to the recommended landscape buffer near the northeast corner of the site between the neighbor to the east, and they are now showing a 2-foot-high landscaping mound along West McPherson Avenue to help with that screening. Another beneficial change since the last discussion was that the dumpster was moved to the west side of the parking lot. This will alleviate issues of having it closer to that neighbor to the east. Given the reduction in density and keeping the rest of the site the same, staff was supportive of the site plan. So staff recommends approval of the site plan, or application for site plan review SP -23-2023 filed by Andec LLC to construct a 3-story, 16-unit apartment building at parcel 60000302210 on West McPherson Avenue.
Engineering.
Not to repeat too much of what Jake was saying, so I mean the site really hasn't changed too much from an engineering side. It still has a sanitary connection that's on that north-south sewer, along with that water connection too. Dan, we'll just work with you on a final location of the meter and all that kind of stuff as normal. The storm water still containing all the water for the site. And they'll be tying into the storm sewer that is out on McPherson, and then that heads to Main Street and then north on Main Street. Talked with sewer department on that to see if they have any problems. If they've cambered it on breaks, they said they haven't had any problems on it. So the stormwater management should be fine with that, and they also submitted SWIP plans for that. But the curb cuts and all that kind of stuff is still staying the same. So just make sure before construction we have all the permits in hand.
Fire prevention.
They addressed the parking lot. I appreciate that. Other than that, just proper permits for construction.
Very good, thank you. So the recommendation before the commission is staff recommends approval of application for site plan review SP-23-2023 filed by Andec LLC to construct a 3-story, 16-unit apartment building at parcel 60000302210 on West McPherson Avenue. Dan.
I'll try to make this short and sweet. Obviously, we were denied on the unit count and the parking. So as it's been stated, the developers come back to comply with the current zoning regulations with regards to number of units based on the density, the size of it, the parking configuration, or the parking lot. And like I said, we made this more of a one-way around to move the dumpster away from the residential and to satisfy the fire safety around the site. Everything's in compliance, so this is what we're proposing at this point.
Very good, thank you. I know we had some folks that wanted to speak on this item. If you could raise your hand. If you could come forward and please introduce yourself and provide your address.
My name is Deborah Pregabon, and I reside at 1124 Hurd Avenue. And the reason I'm here today is because in mid-August, a few of us Donnell residents, including myself, extended an olive branch to Mr. Yates after his variances were denied. We had a referendum petition against the rezoning that we were ready to circulate, but before doing so, we wanted to speak with Mr. Yates. Mr. Yates graciously agreed to a meeting. During that meeting, Mr. Yates stated that he had no immediate plans for a McPherson lot. Furthermore, Mr. Yates explained that he had bigger projects in the works, that he was far more concerned with, and he was unsure if anything at all would be built on that lot. To clear the air, we explained we did not oppose him building. What we opposed was what he wanted to build, because it was too out of place for the neighborhood. Mr. Yates himself agreed and stated he was not a fan of the architectural style, and he told us to go ahead with the referendum if we wanted to do so. In any event, Mr. Yates strongly implied that the McPherson project was put on the back burner. He was so convincing that one of the neighbors offered to buy the lot from him, but he declined that offer. Another resident told Mr. Yates that all he has is his word to go on. Then on August 16th, 2023, the day after our meeting, Lou Willen from the Courier wrote a front page article titled McPherson Apartment Sidelined. Therefore, in our attempt to be reasonable, we accepted what Mr. Yates told us to avoid any further conflict, and we decided not to pursue the referendum. As a result, we were gravely disappointed to learn as soon as the deadline for us to file legal recourse had expired, Mr. Yates filed a new application for construction of the 3-story apartment building almost identical to the original, but this time it was within the zoning regulations. Hence, once again, we are placing our hands in the trust of others on this committee and asking you to please support the wishes of the 171 Donnell residents who signed a petition opposing a 3-story building. Please protect Donnell Park area from irrevocable change. The lot on McPherson is not any random lot on a random street tucked away and hidden from view. It is directly across from Donnell Pond, Donnell Park, and Donnell Practice Field. Donnell Park is a pillar of our community and is like a jewel on the finger of this bustling area, attracting so many visitors, especially during the University of Findlay football games. It's also the most popular photo destination in Findlay for multiple occasions. Whatever is built on that lot, you and you alone have the authority to determine if it blends into the fabric of the area, if it fits the landscape of the neighborhood, and if it is going to add value not only to our neighborhood, but to the city of Findlay. This will be your legacy, because it will leave a lasting impression on residents and visitors alike. We need something that's going to impress the hundreds of people who come to visit Donnell Stadium, Donnell Park, and Donnell Field throughout the year. It is important to keep this area tidy and well preserved. With that said, kind of a thought for the day. I'm going to quote Mark Twain. Do the right thing. It will gratify some people and astonish the rest. Thank you.
If you could stay up, I have a couple questions.
Sure.
So I appreciate you coming up and sharing your concerns. I guess my really only question to you all is, what do you want to see here? Because I know over the last couple of months, as I've heard from the neighborhood, there's been mixed messages, right? I understand, some would like to see nothing there. I think other recognize the bigger picture of the fact that we need housing, that this is a wonderful neighborhood that people want to live in, right? And that's part of the reason it's attractive to build in.
Yes.
Some folks said, we want to see duplexes, or we want to see, this building but smaller. I guess I'm curious If you were if you were Mr. Yates and you had the opportunity to build here, what do you think it should look like?
I think whatever it is should be tasteful. I think it should be more along a 2-story rather than a 3-story. My house, for example, is probably 48 feet high. With that said, it peaks. We're talking about a straight structure, horizontal, that's 3 feet high. That is just going to look so out of place. So what I personally, I can't speak for everyone, I would like to see something tastefully done, 2 stories rather than 3, so it doesn't look so out of place. And the last time there was a University of Findlay football game, we rode down there. There are cars literally parked all over both sides. That whole Donnell practice field is filled with tailgating. The church parking lot's filled. So it's just such a, you can't miss. What's ever built there is going to be seen by everybody. So I think I would like to see something that is going to enhance the neighborhood rather than devalue the neighborhood. Last thing I would like to see is trash bags thrown out front there. There's no elevators in the middle of winter. It's going to be easy enough. Just open your front door, throw it out, and say, I'll get it next time I get out of my car, rather than climb up and down 2 and 3 flights of steps. That's just, I think, human nature. So whatever, if there can be something that would perhaps protect the neighborhood from, I don't want to use maybe the term untidiness, just keep it neat looking and attractive. So many people see it, and it's a representation of our city. It's going to leave them with that impression.
Very good. I appreciate that. And, I know we've talked a couple of different times. I've talked to a number of other folks, and, I understand the concerns. A couple of thoughts that tasteful is subjective, right? People have very different tastes. Personally, I think that this, if I was building it myself, I probably would go with different designs because I'm more of a mid-century modern type of gal. But I do think that there has been some characteristics added to this building. Additionally, I look forward to hearing the rest of the discussion. Personally, I know it is obviously larger than some of the surrounding properties. However, it also is right next to a substation that is much larger and much more obtrusive. And so I think you kind of get a softening that occurs as you get closer to different structures, right? So it's a balancing act. That's the difficult part of our job, is to work within the parameters of the zoning that we have, which this property does, utilize an objective eye to protect the neighborhoods while also making sure that we're protecting or recognizing the difficulties of developing a neighborhood effectively. So those are just some of the thoughts that as I look at this, I've been processing through. I used to live on Lincoln Street and walked down, to Donnell Pond. I went to Donnell, and my grandma lived on Locust. So I've spent a lot of time in this neighborhood and appreciate the unique character it holds. So I think finding something that fits in this area is a balancing act of finding something that fits while also recognizing that, the cost of building and how do we balance out making sure that there is something that makes economical sense to develop here. So just some of the thoughts is, so you understand kind of as you're processing what I'm processing too.
Sure, and I appreciate that.
So Deborah, are you okay with the look of that if it was 2-story? I mean, is this, just personal opinion, but
I think at this point, considering the building is being moved from Grand Avenue, I'm under the impression, unless I'm mistaken, it wants to stay with that same footprint. So would I choose that look? No. I would like to see maybe inside staircases and maybe not have the front door where it, like I said, from human nature, it's going to entice people to keep things out there that probably otherwise wouldn't. And they're small units. 500 square feet, let's face it, is not very big. So I think if some of that could be probably, hidden if things are stored outside. But I think a two-story would soften the look, only because McPherson, my street does have much larger homes on it. McPherson is predominantly a single-story street. So that kind of is just like an in-your-face type thing.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Was there other folks here that wanted to speak on this item? People hide over in the corners from me.
I don't think so.
So, this is always a difficult thing because I completely understand and hear the concerns, and I don't want people to feel like I'm pushing for this. But I also think that this is a project that makes sense on this property. From the standpoint, a couple of things. One, it is a large property, but I think that by setting it close to the back, if you guys recall from the last meeting, pushing it to the back of the property, it's not going to be obtrusive at the roadway. By adding the mounding and landscaping along the road, it's going to create more of a visual barrier from the rest of the neighborhood. By making sure that the trash is on the other side, farther away from the neighbor, the landscaping's added, it's more of a barrier. Plus then, if I was the neighbor immediately here, I would probably I would rather look at the landscaping buffer in this building than the substation. I don't know why, I'm just like, that's something that sticks out to me.
Mm-hmm.
So personally, I think that this meets the zoning code. I think that, over the last couple of months as we've worked through this project, a lot of changes have been made to consider the neighborhood's opinions on this. I hear Deb's concerns related to the balcony and, people being able to set things outside. I guess I see that as no different of anybody having a porch on their property. Though I would say, they obviously have the porches on the back of the property as well. And there was one other thing I thought of. So overall, I'm sorry. I would just say overall, I understand it's a big change for the neighborhood. I guess, Dan, can you just talk through real quick why a 3-story rather than a 2-story structure?
It's to get the number of units, and then if we go wider, we start to exceed the requirements that the city has on square footage, coverage, and stuff
Lot
like
coverage.
that. Trying to keep a little more condensed, confined, create more open space. And again, that's kind of what the developer would like to do.
I know that last meeting, and I commend Mr. Young for what he's trying to do here. I think it's a decent use of that site versus commercial, which it was previously. But I also mentioned the last time that I could support a 2-story structure, but a whole lot more than a 3-story structure, because it fits better in the neighborhood with all the 1-story buildings. And here we are again with a 3-story building. So I think it doesn't fit in the neighborhood as well, being that tall.
I agree, Dan. I mean, I'm in support of a 2-story, but not a 3-story.
Yeah.
So back to that, if we go to a 2-story, and because you're going to stick build one of the stories, right? The apartment is 2 levels of 6 units, right? So 4 of the units, whether it's on the 1st floor or the 3rd floor or wherever, 4 of those units are going to be stick built from scratch, right? So if we put it, so I don't see a big cost impact, other maybe some more foundations. But if we go back to the 2-story, does the footprint grow to the point where we exceed that 3,500 square feet per? I don't know, Matt. Help me with that. Is that
The lot coverage is 40%. 40% of the lot can be covered
Okay, so
by
we would,
parking lot
Okay.
and building.
okay, so if we took one of those well, I guess it would still be 2 stories, so I don't know. Would that footprint exceed it if we went to a 2-story and kept the 16 units?
I don't know the answer to that.
It didn't exceed it when it was the last time, I think.
Oh, it
when they
didn't,
were-
okay.
I don't believe, did it, when it was a
It didn't
24?
exceed it because I had requested less parking, and that was part of the give and take. So I believe that it would if that were the case. If we haven't.
Can you speak into the microphone, please?
Sorry. Yeah, that was part of the reason before some of the variances I was requesting was because I did not feel as though it needed as much parking, which also reduced lot coverage, which permitted that. So now that the parking has increased, that's increased the lot coverage.
How much has the parking increased?
Well, I'm just compliant with code currently.
Oh.
It's actually increased, I think, 3 spaces from last time.
Okay.
I believe so.
Okay, so I'm not sure where we're at. So if we take the units from Grand Avenue and we add to, let's just, as an example, towards the electrical area. Okay, so and that's a 2-story building. Would that footprint exceed the lot coverage?
Most likely, yes.
Yeah. One additional thing to comment, yeah, the project is barely viable, even worth it at this point. If I had to have additional foundations, additional roofing, that does increase the cost, and it's unlikely that it would make sense to do. And I did meet with her and a couple other the neighbors right after, and I genuinely had to literally go back to the drawing board to see if it was worth it. I was already working with a Y on this. I wanted to proceed forward to see if it made sense. And had I started off with this, I probably wouldn't have wasted my time. So what I have right now, I would proceed forward, obviously. But if there's changes that increase costs, I just financially can't do it because of the material costs. What debt service is currently, it just makes doing any project, especially new construction, very difficult to do right now. So part of this is to make the project financially viable.
I'd like to see the analysis on the footprint, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how we get around that.
I think one of, I don't know if you can prove this with a condition that you have only 2 stories, but the zoning code does allow the city planning commission to apply conditions to the application if the effect is to reduce the impact of the development. And I think 2 stories certainly would reduce the impact of the development.
One additional thing is code currently is 50 foot for height, and I believe it's 42. So
Right.
we're 8 feet under that, and it is within code. That's part of the reason I didn't see that being an issue. As well, from the tenant's perspective, this is a unique opportunity to have a good view of Lake Cascades, which is a rare thing in Findlay to have a view like that.
Were you planning any outside storage for bicycles or anything like that?
So I originally had to start chopping things off because the unit count went down. So that being the case, one thing I did aesthetically, I moved the stairs over and had a double gable in the front. I think that looks much nicer. We also added 6 windows on either side. I think that'll help as well. We did remove the storage because it just wasn't something that I had to cut out. However, a different development that I have, we have a lot of excess storage. So we can utilize that. If people need to store it, we can offer that. So I wouldn't want that to become an issue for my tenants, and we have other places that they can store stuff. We will likely put like a bike rack during the summer where they can store bicycles, something like that.
Well,
So I'll just throw my
go ahead,
quick opinion in here. The building meets the zoning requirements for the area that has been rezoned, or the zoning that's been rezoned to. And we did approve 3 stories before. I like that the fact that it's pushed back off the road, I do think will reduce the overall effect of that. You're not getting the street line, big 3-story, that much taller than single-story buildings around it. That effect from that. So I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty much okay with the 3-story, the way it's shown here. But the rendering is showing some trees in front of the building, which also helps soften the look of the building. Is that something we're actually looking at providing? Because I'm not seeing a planting area on the plan here in front
Yes,
of the
yeah,
building.
so in those, in the parking lot now, we have some sections where we will. be
islands
putting that
there?
In the islands, and then additionally on the front, well, if you go back to where that was, along McPherson, that will be graded up, and then there will be some additional.
mounding.
Yeah, additional plantings along there, so.
Are there gonna be taller trees along there too?
There will be some
or
trees,
just
yes, just
bushes?
Yeah,
to
we
break it up.
yeah, we do have a combination of trees and shrubs in there to give it more of a street appeal rather than just a straight shrub line.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Dan asked us to kind of introduce some additional trees in there, so we did do that.
Do you think
I guess
that's
one point of clarification, we would like the board to act, or I guess react on the case as submitted with the 3 stories and not put any conditions on it, other than what's here. So we'd like to, again, try to get an approval or a denial on the plans as presented.
I'm supportive of a 2-story, so.
Understand?
Everyone else gave 2 cents, so I might as well feel obligated to at least comment. I appreciate the adjustments. I like the changes, the gables. Again, I agree with Jackie's comments, and of course, my one was about the mounding along McPherson. The trees, I mean, it softens it. And as I said in the previous meeting, I asked you the question, are you building this and selling it, or are you maintaining it? And you maintain this property. And other projects you've had in this community, I have confidence that this is not a turn and burn. It will be maintained to a high quality. So I support this.
So my only other question is, and I know we've kind of looked at this ad nauseum, is there any opportunity to shift it slightly farther to the west?
What we can do is we can take the entire site and shift it maybe 20, 30 feet to the west to provide more separation against the residential. The reason we had it here today is there are 2 mature trees on the west side of the parking lot that we were trying to maintain. But going through everything, hearing concerns, we have talked about actually taking it and pushing it 20 to 30 feet to the west. Again, to create more of a buffer in between the existing residential, so we're not right up against them. Push things over and more center it. Access would still be into the parking lot for the Donnell parking area, so that is something that we have discussed. With your comment, I think we'll definitely make that and push it 20, 30 foot to the west.
Yeah, I think, again, that continues to kind of create that separation, to provide that visual barrier. I think that also allows for additional landscaping, maybe some plantings on that west side. I know you guys were doing some planting on the actual the neighbor's property, correct? And then fencing, and then maybe then you're able to provide some additional trees or something in that area. But I think that just creating that separation helps with the visual dominance of the property.
Yeah, please remember that there is a city public utility along that east line. So we'll try to maintain the existing trees that are at the south, and we are proposing that vinyl fence along the east side to provide that with some additional landscaping up front.
Yeah.
Unless Jeremy wants me to put a couple trees on top of his water and sewer. I mean, we can do that.
No, thank you.
Yeah, so personally, I will motion to approve the application for site plan review SP-23-2023 filed by Andec LLC Construction for a 3-story, 16-unit apartment building at parcel 60000302210 on West McPherson Avenue, with the condition that it be shift at least 20 feet to the west. And obviously, if there's additional, I think that would be beneficial. Is there a second?
Second.
Other discussion? Hearing no further discussion, Jacob, whenever you're ready.
Mr. Martin? Aye. Mr. Dearnett?
No.
Ms. Schroeder?
Aye.
Mr. Klinger?
Nay.
Mayor Murin.
Aye. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
And obviously, I know you guys do a lot of work. I know you guys know the importance of doing this well in this neighborhood, so don't make me regret it. All right, going back up to item number 1 under new items, application for zoning amendment ZA-10-2023 filed by, I always say this wrong, I apologize, Mr. Strauss. Strauss 3 LTD to rezone lots 9, 10, and 11 of the East Melrose Business Park from C2 General Commercial to M2 Multifamily High Density located at 1600 East Melrose Avenue. CPC staff comments.
So the request is located on the north side of East Melrose Avenue on the west side of the intersection with East Parkway. It is zoned C2 General Commercial. To the north, it's a mix of C2 General Commercial and I-1 Light Industrial. Across Keith Parkway, to the east, it is zoned C2 General Commercial. To the west, it is zoned M2 Multifamily High Density. Across East Melrose to the south, it's a mix of M2 Multifamily High Density, I-1 Light Industrial, and C2 General Commercial. It is not located within a 100-year floodplain, and the City of Findlay Land Use Plan designates the area as regional commercial. Parcel history, this site's currently vacant. The applicant's requesting to rezone to M2 multifamily high density. Although the land use map recommends that these parcels along Keith Parkway be commercial, the parcel does abut M2 already, and given the existence of multifamily in the area, staff did not have any concerns with the request. So staff recommends CPC recommend approval of application for zoning amendment ZA-10-2023 filed by Strouch 3 Limited to rezone lots 9, 10, and 11 of the East Melrose Business Park from C2 General Commercial to M2 Multifamily High Density located at 1600 East Melrose Avenue.
Engineering.
No comment.
Fire prevention.
No comment.
The recommendation before this commission is CPC staff recommends approval of application for zoning amendment ZA-10-2023 filed by Strauss 3 LTD to rezone lots 9, 10, and 11 of the East Melrose Business Park from C2 General Commercial to M2 Multifamily High Density located at 1600 East Melrose Avenue. Discussion. Is the applicant here to speak on this item? If you could come forward, introduce yourself, and tell us a little bit about the project.
Yes, Phil Lawson. I'm with the development or future development and owner group. This will be a 7-acre parcel altogether. In the green to the left or to the west is approximately 4.2 acres, already zoned, as Jacob said. And we just want to continue that all the way to Keith Romick Parkway. The plan is to have, and if you're familiar with what we did at on Western and Adams and Putnam by the old St. Mike's School site, be very similar to that. Duplexes, triplexes, and approximately 80 units. Working on site plans and things right now, so I realize it's just a zoning meeting, but so to get this done, we would like these 3 lots put into multifamily high density.
Phil, is the St. Mike's, was that successful? Are those units full? And
Yes, we have a waiting list.
oh, you have waiting list?
Yeah, we have 28 units there, and we did that in probably a 4-phase over a 1.5 year period. This will be done in 3 phases over, it should be done in less than 2 years.
Do you currently own the 3 lots that you were rezoning?
No, that is I have it under a letter of intent. Yep.
Okay, and you own the property then to the west?
No, it's owned by the same owner.
Oh, okay. So
it's
you're
all-
intending to buy that all the way to the residential area to the west that's
Yes,
currently.
Crawford Station is just
Yeah.
on the other side there. Yeah. So,
Yeah, I would say overall, I'm supportive of this application for the zoning change. I think it makes sense for the area and is, consistent. So no major concerns on my end. Was there anyone else here that wanted to speak for or against this item? Okay. Go ahead. I'll second your motion.
Real quick. How's it going? Have you, so with the St. Mike's infill development, we went to M2, I believe, and then we went back to like an R3 or R4.
yes.
So I just want to, have you looked at the M2, and do you feel that the M2 can achieve what you want to do with the individual duplex and triplex?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. There was some unique things at the St. Mike's School with the individual lots.
Sure.
And there were 17 lots that made up that property, so.
I just wanted to make sure that you'd asked yourself that question.
Yes. Good
Because I think it would work under M2, but I know the project we talked about was not zoned M2. So I just wanted to have that conversation real quick.
Good point.
You're allowed to ask questions, Matt. We'll allow it. All right, we had a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this item? Hearing none. Jacob, whenever you're ready.
Mr. Jermit?
Aye.
Ms. Schroeder?
Aye.
Mr. Klinger?
Aye.
Mayor Miron?
Aye.
And Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Very good. Thank you.
This item will be heard at the noon meeting of the Planning and Zoning Committee in this room. And then after that, so to make a recommendation to council.
Item number 2, application for site plan review SP-20-2023 filed by Moose Lodge 698 Loyal Order TR for a 6,739 square foot building expansion at their building located at 1028 West Main Cross Street. CPC staff comments.
So this request is located on the north side of West Main Cross Street. It is zoned C2 General Commercial. The land to the south and the west is zoned C2 General Commercial. To the north, it's PO, Parks and Open Space. To the east, it is R3 Small Lot Residential. It's a small lot residential neighborhood along Durrell Street. The parcel is within the 100-year floodplain. The City of Findlay Land Use Plan designates the area as neighborhood commercial. Parcel history, this is currently the site for the Moose Lodge, who are requesting to expand their building. This would involve an expansion on each the east and the west side of the building. The expansion to the east would eliminate the drive aisle around the side of the existing building. The distance between the edge of the expansion and the property line is 11 feet 3 inches, while the code states that it needs to be 25 when adjacent to residential. This would need a variance from the BZA. The applicant has indicated that they will be replacing the existing fence with a new 8-foot tall panel fence to help with the screening. The parking lot would be expanded to the west. Code requires a 5-foot step back from a side lot line. This new configuration would require a variance from the BZA as well. Since this is abutting similar uses and the setback is a great distance from West Main Cross, staff was supportive of the change. So staff recommends approval of the application for site plan review SP-20-2023 filed by Moose Lodge 698 Loyal Order TR for a 6,739 square foot building expansion at their building at 1028 West Main Cross Street with the following condition of receiving the variances from the BZA regarding the side yard setback and the parking setback.
Very good. Engineering?
So pretty much the site, it looks like it's using the same water service, same sewer service and all that kind of stuff. Looks like it's just expansion of the building and parking lot. And if you can see on the northwest corner of that lot, they did expand the pond to accommodate for the additional impervious areas. But really, I mean, no services or anything like that, so I won't be needing any type of permits for it.
Fire prevention.
No comment.
So the recommendation from staff is recommend approval of the application for site plan review SP-20-2023 filed by Moose Lodge 698 Loyal Order TR for a 6,739 square foot building expansion at their building at 1028 West Main Cross Street with the following condition. Receive the variances from BZA regarding the side yard and parking setbacks. Is the applicant here to speak on this item? It's a no-go situation. No one wants to speak to us.
You can all come up.
Safety in numbers.
Well, I guess I got the short straw.
All right.
I'm John Courtney with Blanchard Design Associates. I'm also a member of the Moose and have been involved with the building committee associated with this project. So, well, as you can see, we're looking to expand the building by about 6,200 square feet, primarily to accommodate current membership, although we continue to grow, every month as we find out. So, the intention was to, because we're kind of losing parking, obviously, with the expansion, was to add additional parking on the west side, and obviously to address maybe concerns on the east side of the property, what we propose is to put an 8-foot fence for screening purposes along that property line. And, I think that pretty much covers it, so.
Just a quick note too. So the application actually did go to the BZA first, and they recommended they needed to come to us to get the site plan reviewed first. So
That's nice of them. So my only real question with this is, so with the east side addition, how is that going to impact your current outdoor area on the property?
The outdoor area to the north of the building?
So it's just on the north side. I just bring that up because I know we have dealt with a couple of noise complaints recently, and
Yeah.
so I wasn't sure if this would provide any sort of barrier from that to the neighborhood.
Well, I think it certainly, to the extent it will reflect sound back to the north, I think that would certainly help. As far as access to that area to the north, the plan is to have an exit out of that addition so that members that are out in the pavilion area to the north can access that building then, into that new expansion area. So, but yeah, I think it should improve that situation.
You mentioned that you're going to have a new fence along here. Now, would that include here too, or is that, I couldn't see when I drove?
Yeah, we already have a 8-foot plastic vinyl fence there.
Okay.
We did the addition at the in the pavilion area.
Okay, and then you also have the vinyl fence here, but I think this is all the rail fence?
That's correct.
And
yes.
no fencing here?
And there's currently no fencing there. We were not proposing any fencing there, being it was commercial property to
Right.
the west. Yeah.
Now, will that butt right up to the parking lot of the doctor's office?
Pretty close. They actually have a curb. I don't know if you can blow in close enough to see that. The doctor's office actually has a curb. Yeah, you can see that white curb along there. That's pretty much the property line.
Okay.
That runs south from their parking lot. So yeah, it would pretty much butt right up against their parking lot.
I don't have an issue with going to the west, but going to the east, I do. I just think we have to be careful encroaching on residential properties. Right now it's owned by the Moose. Someday it might not be. It could be another Brandy's or something. You have to look at that. What it could potentially be in the future. And I just think we just need to protect residential property from encroachment. And so I'm not in favor of expanding to the east.
If I might address that comment,
Sure.
The reason for expanding both directions is if you've not been in the building is pretty much cut in two halves. If you come into the middle of the building, the area to the east side of the building is what we call the social quarters, and the area to the west side is what we call the lodge quarters. And so they're really two separate functions for those facilities. And again, because of the membership, we really need growth in both of those functions. If we rent out the lodge side, for example, for an event, we still, need additional space then on the on the social quarters.
Sure.
Oh, go ahead.
Steve Reddick, Business Administrator for the Moose. We seen the east expansion as more of, as one, internally usable, but a sound barrier. Being that most of the sound, which we've addressed with some of the sound guys, is coming from the back to the front, which is currently open driveway. By utilizing that east, you get a physical block of that sound. There was also concerns existing with the neighbors. Some members are not so responsible and like to donate things to the neighbors over the fence. So it's currently a 4-foot fence. We're hoping that the 8-foot fence not only provides additional sound barrier, but also provides a physical barrier to prevent those donations. And I will say in about the last year and a half, we're up about 10 to 12%, over approximately 300 on top of 2,700.
Of people, 10% people
Yeah.
in membership.
And membership continues to grow. So it's a current issue that's kind of only going to get worse. Larger events, we utilize both sides. The social quarters is primarily for members like John had spoken to. When the meeting hall per se is utilized for rent and things of that nature, we're pushed onto one side. That being said, we're trying to help out with the neighbors mainly due to the sound and block it off.
What were the noise complaints? I heard somebody mention, what were the recent noise complaints from who and about what?
Don't know about who. Police would show up. I contacted some of the alternate neighbors, just who you could get a hold of. They said occasionally they could hear it, but it's nothing you could listen to. That's what they had stated. Anytime that anyone arrived, we would tone it down. I also talked to the sound guys to say, listen, 75% of what you normally do is sufficient. That's all been exterior live bands that are primarily June, July, and August on Saturday nights.
And where is the band located when they play?
In the...
Do you have a pointer there?
I do. John, if you... The band is back there.
Back here.
Actually,
Oh.
right... If you look where John's got the pointer, the L shape in the top right corner is a pavilion. They are in the left portion of that pavilion. So if you look up where that east expansion is proposed, that falls in line with blocking that sound coming from the back.
Is that east wall of the pavilion closed or open?
It's a fence.
That's where the
Of the
8-foot
pavilion.
fence goes
That's the
from.
8-foot fence.
Of
There's
the
an existing
pavilion.
garage behind our building, and it goes from the corner of the garage back to the cemetery in the far back of the lot, and then all the way west. When it gets to the northwest corner, or roughly speaking, of our lot, the front portions of that back portion are aluminum rail fence that you can see through. So the back is solid and the front is open, creating a visual into the beer garden. But we're really hoping that not only can we help with what we need internally, but the main thing is, one of the main things is blocking off that sound.
So my question was the east wall of the pavilion open or closed?
It is open.
It's a pavilion building. It's basically with posts.
Oh, it's a
and then
post-
there's
it's a
but there's
pole
fence.
There's a fence.
Along that property.
About 2 feet outside the pavilion has
I
a
got you.
border.
Sorry, thank you.
What's the height of the pavilion? About 10 foot?
No, it's 16 feet to the eave.
Yeah, but I mean,
approximately.
the open side would, so the fence doesn't totally cover the open side.
No.
Yeah.
Can anybody here speak to these, this noise complaints?
Yeah, we received a couple throughout the summer when they would have their live concerts and officers would go out there. I think at one point it kind of turned into one specific individual that was upset and would call pretty frequently.
Okay. And
That
is that-
seems to have died.
Is it a neighbor? So in these
They would not
backs-
provide their information.
Oh, I see. An anonymous, all right.
Yes.
So I So on the drawings currently, to the east of the addition, it appears that that's just going to be stone, almost as a, is your vision that that's kind of a walking path from front to back, or what does,
Where, Mayor?
on the east side of the
We've
addition?
discussed closing that off in an additional, putting gates on both ends to cut foot traffic, again, for the donations, thinking,
Yeah.
well, one, if you put up a physical deterrent, two, if you make people walk around the west portion of the building instead of the east,
Yeah.
you kind of help alleviate any of that issue as well.
Yeah, I think my desire would be, if possible, and I'm not sure with, because it appears just to be about 11 feet wide, is if we could put, this shouldn't surprise you based off of all of our prior discussions, today's meeting, some landscaping along there. I think fences are nice, but when you're able to create more of a landscaping barrier that is more visually appealing, and that would hopefully also block that
We're
off.
open to any recommendation. I mean,
And I think carrying that back.
landscaping is going to be cheaper than fence as well. So
Yeah, because you have the lower existing fence. So being able to at least provide, some larger trees kind of through there, back along that,
you're
I would
saying
really
from
like
the
to
building
see
to
it.
the fence.
Yes, between
Okay.
in that opening space. And really, I would like to see it go back next to the pavilion. On the drawings, it looks like you maybe have just a couple of trees at the corners.
Where, just so we're on the same.
Give me that marker, Dan.
This is always a very trippy angle to look at things from over here. All right, so I'd like to see landscaping pretty much from here all the way back, to fill in some of that as well.
Currently, from basically the front of the lot, the entire length of the right-hand side of our lot is substantially mature trees. They're 40, 50, 60 feet.
Yeah.
And that virtually borders the entire east portion of the lot, other than
Right there at the back. 13,
right
14,
there,
15.
just beyond Harry's is there, the first two lots. They kind of end right there, where is it 13 and 14 come together. Other than that little gap, it's virtually solid 40, 50-foot mature trees. And we would happily fill that in as well.
Is up by 16 and 17 mature trees?
Yes. Once you hit 15, that is all solid trees.
Okay.
Between, actually, if you've got the edge of the pavilion, then you have 2 feet, 3 feet later, the fence. Was an existing chain link fence that I believe is Maple Groves. And then, but that little gap is filled with solid trees, other than 13 and 14
Okay, so maybe
adjoining.
that's what we want then.
Okay, but those trees are on the adjacent properties, not on the Moose Lodge property, right?
That's
Oh, are they?
kind of, it's in that little no man's land where it's just,
Kind of right up against the fence.
Oh, okay, so the fence is inside the property line of ways then, okay.
yes.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think maybe if you could, I kind of like the idea of the 8-foot
Yeah.
fence because I think it helps to give a little bit more of a block. But in that 11-foot no man's land there, certainly there could be some deciduous trees that could be planted in there, I would think. And
Yeah, something size responsible,
Yeah.
of course. You got to worry about your
Right.
width more than anything else.
Right.
Maybe coniferous would be a little bit more responsible due to the width of it and,
Yeah.
and an overhang.
yeah,
But,
arborvitae or something.
I
'cause they
think,
get tall.
yeah, an arborvitae type or a cedar.
Yeah.
Something that stays relatively narrow and plant more of them, but would grow approximately 20, 25 feet.
Right.
To provide an additional physical barrier in addition to the fence.
So what would it look like, and I'm going to open it up for the audience here in a second if there's anyone else that wanted to speak. What would it look like if we at least had a 20-foot setback on the east side there? Because we currently have 11, and it just seems like it's really on top of those properties.
I think it becomes restrictive on, one, interior need of seating. Two, if we build that approximately, let's just say 2/3 the size of proposed, you're probably going to have approximately 100% of the cost of it. You know, the value and then it's not going to fit the need, and we're still going to pay just as much money to get 2/3 the amount And that's the real reason it's justification of the expense and to fit the need is why we're asking for the variance.
Very good. Is there anyone else here that wanted to speak for or against this item? If you could come down and introduce yourself, please, and provide your address.
My name is Steve Russell. I own the property at 132 Durrell. I purchased that property. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for letting me view my thoughts.
Could you show us which property you're talking about?
Okay, so, wait a minute. Right there.
Okay. Number
Okay,
12.
so the trees are on my property, okay? When I bought the property in 2019, the back area, I thinned out the trees and loaded with trash, okay? Loaded with trash from the Moose, beer cans, you name it, okay? At that time, I was a member of the Moose, and I went to a board member and asked them to do something about the trash. They did not, okay? It continues today. I rent the property, and I speak with my tenants a lot, and the trash has not subsided. Guess I'd like to say, as a former Moose member, the Moose is a bar and a gambling joint masquerading as a family center, okay? When he calls that the social area, it's a bar. You know, it's a fancy name for a bar. I'm against them moving any closer to my property, okay? And I speak, I think, for a couple other of the people that went to the variance meeting, which they failed their variance appeal, okay? They have, excuse me, I need to collect my thoughts here. So, in the variance meeting, I found out that I believe they're to have an 8-foot fence there now. Is that not true? According to fencing?
They have a 4-foot.
I know they have a 4-foot, but it's supposed to be an 8-foot.
That's what they're showing on the plans currently.
Well, on the plans, but by code, it should be an 8-foot. Is that right?
No.
No?
No, I mean, if it was to be constructed today, they'd have to have what we call level 2 or 3 screening, and that may include a fence. But
It could be just landscaping.
yeah, that screening is something that came after the construction of this building.
Okay. So I guess my point is, when I brought all this up in the zoning variance meeting, you know, as a good neighbor, I would have thought they would have provided a fence there for us. Actually, even after 2019, when I voiced concerns about the trash, and I am not the only neighbor that has voiced concerns about the trash. So I'm against them moving any closer to my property. And I ask you, if your property was there, would you want them to be granted a variance to push their bar closer to your property? Because that's what it is.
Bar.
Well, thank you for sharing your concerns. Appreciate it.
One thing that I think the addition does, number one, it eliminates the parking along there, which eliminates foot traffic a little more, so you may not get quite as much of the trash. I'm not sure it's a cure-all. And then on that 11-foot strip where we have some plantings, you might want to do something that restricts walking through there so that people aren't carrying a can and throwing it over the fence. So that they don't use that as a pathway, make them go through the building, I guess, if you could.
That was the thought on the east side of the building in that 11 feet to actually put perpendicular fences with a gate where it could be mowed, you know, just to get a lawnmower in, but generally speaking to totally close. That was the thing of, excuse me, perpendicular fencing.
Right.
to totally cut that off, to eliminate it.
Right.
So we actually see this proposal as eliminating trash, or, you know, at least something towards that end, and reducing sound, trying to help what is said. And to clarify, zoning did not reject it. They tabled it pending this outcome.
Okay. The addition to the east side, the east wall, I assume would be a solid wall?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's basically an extension of our existing building to be completely enclosed, of course.
Okay. I did have a question on the parking lot on the expansion there, and the parking lot of the doctor's office. Is the grade level such that when that's built that they're somewhat at the same level and you
No.
still get water to the detention?
I believe the doctor's parking lot, yeah, that is substantially higher. I'm going to guess a foot or two.
Oh, okay.
Brian, do you have any?
Yes, I believe that.
This is Brian Spoon with Mill Street.
Brian with Millstream Building Systems. I believe the elevation is approximately a foot higher than from the doctor's office.
Will there be some sort of an offset if you're right up to it, or is there going to be some space between
There
it?
would-
How are you going to handle that?
There's no space? I believe not.
So it may need to be curbed or something in order to keep traffic from going from one parking lot to the other?
Correct.
Can I see the pointer?
Yeah, there's an upper curb on the doctor's office, I believe, if I recall.
I do believe the doctor's office has a curb on the right-hand side of their parking lot.
Okay, but that, if you're butting right up to it, that curb may fall away then. if you're
Well, we
lower.
wouldn't literally go right up to
Okay.
it. Trying to alleviate a 3-foot mow strip.
Right.
Basically for that purpose. And being it's a doctor's office and car washes and things of that nature, their building actually sets up higher. So topographically, I think it's going to, you'll have just a little drop-off area that probably some landscaping stone so as not to be mowed, but I think you're gonna probably end up with a little.
Okay.
I think that natural topography will help eliminate, actually, the elevation works in our favor to that point, I
Okay.
guess, as far as the drive-through portions.
I need to clarify, I misspoke. That elevation change between the doctor's office parking lot and this new proposed parking lot is approximately the same.
Okay.
So there would be no need for any kind of curbing or anything to retain. All of that water would still come over
Right.
that way.
I do think there needs to
I
be
apologize.
some barrier to prevent cars from, maybe there's a long line exiting the Moose and someone's like, well, let's,
Right.
I think there needs to be some barrier there to prevent cars going from parking lot.
And it could just be parking bumpers at
blocks.
that point.
Yes, parking
Yeah.
blocks.
Yeah.
That's easily handled.
Well, I think this expansion certainly, I think it addresses the trash issue with the 8-foot fence, and I think you're going to reduce walking in that area. And, but I guess it just, the real issue I guess I'm struggling with here is just encroachment on residential property. That's the issue, I think. I think they've done everything they can to minimize it, but we still are, like, Mayor, I liked your suggestion about if we could keep some buffer, but maybe financially that doesn't work for the Moose, so I don't know. That's what I'm struggling with, I guess.
Yeah, so I think, per the code, it's a 25 setback. I guess, if we could see like at least 15
Yeah.
feet with
Yeah.
a landscaping barrier in that area. I think I'm trying to see myself sitting in my backyard, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we have the 8-foot fence and then we have trees on both sides and a building, I think I like that better than having constant, vehicular traffic going behind my house.
Right.
So I like that it would be shut down, that you're eliminating the people walking through, that you're providing that. And I do think that then the building would also provide some additional sound barrier from that. But how tall is the building?
16 feet.
I can't hear you, sorry.
It'd be 16 feet at the eave.
16 feet. Okay.
Can you, I mean, I guess if we did what the mayor's suggesting, could we expand right here, you know, like this, I don't know, bring, you know, kind of just wrap it around the back too, maybe just get some more square footage. I don't know if that helps you or not.
It does not help us because in that location you pointed out is major electrical, which is economically not
Yeah.
the greatest thing to be
Right.
messing with.
Fair enough.
In
Okay.
relocating, that's the primary incoming
Yeah.
power for the
Yeah.
entire facility.
Mr. Russell, as we talked earlier, you know, they would have the 8-foot fence per this new plan, as well as then if they add the landscaping along that property, along the new building, does that address your concerns, Mr. Russell?
So they're only going to eliminate what, 5, 6 parking spaces? Okay, you're going to eliminate 11. But I don't believe that the trash is coming from people walking through there. I think they walk out of the bar, they have a can of beer, they finish it, and they pitch it over the fence, because that's what I'm finding, and that's what my tenants are finding. So whether it's a 4-foot fence or an 8-foot fence, I think that gives them more of a challenge to get it over, okay? So I'm against them pushing that bar closer to my property. I don't think anything that they've suggested will eliminate it, because I just think some people do that.
Well, they would be eliminating the walking through there, right? So you wouldn't have foot traffic, so that
Well,
would
but-
eliminate, right?
Okay, yeah, but they're still walking to their car. It's not like they're walking out there, I don't believe, and walking up and down the cars, drinking and pitching trash. They're pitching it when they go to their cars. That's just a logical assumption.
Is there an opportunity, thank you, I appreciate. Brian? Is there an opportunity with the parking stalls appear to currently butt up immediately to the fence and then immediately to the residential? Would we be able to shift the parking stalls to the west slightly?
Are you talking right here?
Yeah. Right.
Yes, along that
And maybe
edge,
some landscape buffer.
and then add an additional landscape buffer along that edge?
I suppose that's possible. However, you would probably, given required spacing, you would start to lose handicap here and handicap here in order to create this buffer that you're
And that buffer is
discussing.
currently 50-foot mature deciduous trees. We do our best, in fact, the Board of Officers has been recently engaged to help reduce our liquor license does not allow carryout. So we do our best to try to police. You don't even take it out of the building unless you're going to the beer garden.
But it doesn't sound like we're doing a very good job at it.
People go out to smoke and.
People, yes. And especially, you're up in that very front corner. That's all existing. The only thing that, I guess we don't see the building, other than those people that park up there are going to continue to park up there regardless of a building 50 feet back, whether it's there or not. That's kind of a separate location. I see that as not correlating to the addition. That's just an ongoing issue that we're hoping, our own internal policing, that was just discussed Tuesday night at our board meeting. And as far as overall, just trying to police that better, responding to the members and telling them, please don't do this. And 3, the deterrent of the 8-foot fence coming with the addition, that's got to be better than 4 foot. I don't foresee it as a challenge. As far as just being a bar, we do call it the social quarters. We do serve alcohol. We do have state legal gaming, but the average bar, we're on tune this year to donate approximately $300,000+ to charities. The average bar does not do that. Not justifying, I'm just saying it,
Right.
it is not Joe's Bar down on the corner.
Do you have a designated smoking area when patrons do want to go out and obviously I'm sure
We
carry their
have
beer?
urns at the front and side. At every door, we have a concrete urn to minimize waste, and they are right outside the exterior doors.
Even
so they
the
don't
front
have
door?
to walk across a parking lot or anything
No,
like that.
but you don't have a designated area to the backside, even with this addition there to the backside where
There
you would try to
had been
focus
a
those.
smoking room that was actually a separate room from the lodge. That has since been smoking vacated. We have a couple open air awnings that people will utilize, especially during inclement weather, or the entire beer garden because it's an open air structure. So pretty much that's where they go. They go out back heading towards the beer garden and hang around. That's the other thing. The back driveway is where I would say 90% of the smoking occurs. This would also alleviate the around traffic and actually provide some additional safety for our patrons, not worried about a car coming around the east side and all of a sudden, as soon as you turn that back right corner, bam, right there they are. And the cars can get kind of on top of you before you realize it. So we're seeing a safety advantage to cutting off the drive around as well.
So if I recall correctly, your existing 4-foot fence, it's not really much of a fence, right? It's the kind of horizontal wood beams.
I'm going to make an
but-
assumption it was put in 1992-ish when the original lodge was built. It's literally that tall, and I believe it's just
boards,
flat boards.
Right.
So we're saying more of a permanent vinyl 8-foot solid fence, especially up at the front where I believe Mr. Russell's property adjoins. The building addition isn't really relevant. It's not even in proximity to his properties. So the border actually, I mean, it's additional attempts to try to alleviate that. I know when we had a spring cleanup, multiple members went down through the front corner trees and physically cleaned up everything they could possibly find to try to make up for we do our due diligence as best we can.
Yeah, so I guess my point is, my guess is that I'm sure some people are being silly and throwing trash, right? People are not always the wisest or most considerate of others. However, currently, with the fence, debris litter can blow through the fence and could be collecting in the trees because it doesn't go down to the ground.
No, it does not go down to the ground. I'm going to say there's approximately 6 to 8 inches underneath that debris from the car wash or wherever it comes in off
So with
I-75
the new
area.
fence, can we take it all the way down to the ground to
Definitely.
create
That's the
more
way
of that barrier?
We would make it mimic the fence we put in the back to try, and that goes virtually as much as topographical allows all the way to the ground.
Okay.
All right, so I guess where I'm at, I'm okay with the expansion as long as we have this buffer and it's fenced and landscaped, and then that buffer goes, that 10-foot buffer goes all the way to the front, move those parking spaces back, eliminate a couple of the handicap. You're going to pick up other parking, so that's kind of where I'm at. I'm okay with the expansion. Just let's improve the buffer, eliminate walking. There should be no walking between the east addition and those properties and the fence. We're going to landscape that. How about to the north? How did we leave it to the north of the expansion?
Just a 8-foot fence.
Just an 8-foot fence. Are we okay? Is there concern about walking and trash going over the fence right here? Is that, or do we want that landscaped also? I don't know. What is this box right here? What is that?
That would be it's concrete.
Is that a dumpster? Or that's just a?
The dumpster is currently there.
Currently there.
And there's
All right,
currently a
can we
fence.
move the dumpster out and just landscape that hole so we have a 10-foot barrier, the whole?
Yes.
No, okay, all right. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Landscaping buffer. All right, was there anyone else here that wanted to speak for or against this item? Mr. Russell?
Just want to clarify a couple of things. My property is directly, mine's, I think, is that 13? Right there, yep, right?
Yeah, one up.
Is it 13? But it's,
right here.
that,
13 is
the
right here.
expansion is going to butt right up to my property, okay? And the second point I'd like to make is I complained in 2019. I'm still getting trash. That's all I want to say. I don't think anything done with this expansion is going to help that, okay? I just don't. I just don't want a bar. I don't think that you should be given a variance to push your bar closer to my property. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just one point, they will still have to go back to the Board of Zoning Appeals. And the Board of Zoning Appeals will have to grant the variance.
And then does that go to council? Or
No.
Just any of this go to council?
Nope.
Okay.
Other questions or comments? Okay.
So I had one comment. So this is in the floodplain. In the previous project, I know I've been waiting for a volumetric calculation of the pond, and the pond wasn't deep enough at one point. So we need to make sure that the new buildings and all that is counted for into your pond and get it verified with that calculation.
So that his is different from the stormwater. His is because it's in a floodplain right now, and the cut fill has to be a net zero. So that would be something outside of what the pond would be. That's what I'm saying. With his, we'll have to verify with what his needs are. With your, I know you guys are expanding that, but that's something we'll have to verify with that.
One of the issues or thoughts I just had is I don't believe there's any site lighting on the parking lot. Will there be site lighting on the buildings?
Yes.
Will that comply with the lighting requirements of, what, 1 foot candle at the property line?
And I don't know if you have this drawing in this set here, but there's a wall pack lighting that we moved down here, moved down so that the splash is below the fence line.
Why would you have a light back there at all?
We don't need it now.
We don't
because-
need it now.
Right, so let's eliminate that.
Yeah, we can
Okay.
certainly eliminate that for
Okay.
sure.
What about the site lighting on the front of that east addition or the back? And the site lighting would be on the west addition, anything?
There's no site lighting anywhere except for what's existing currently on this building here. Okay.
With the expansion of the parking lot and all, is that difficult for people to find their way? Is there bleed over lighting from other businesses or something that gives you some?
I believe there's lighting over here that bleeds over a little bit, but the whole entire parking lot is lit up.
By the building lights?
Correct.
Do they need to submit photometrics, Matt?
Should be in the.
We require photometrics.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see if I've got this correct. So I would be looking for a motion with the conditions that they receive the variance from BZA regarding the side yard and parking setbacks, and that a landscaping buffer be installed along the entire east side with the 8-foot fence, that we receive the verified pond calculations, and that the eastern side is closed to pedestrian and vehicular traffic.
And that landscape plan is sent to staff for
Yep.
review?
Yep.
And some sort of parking blocks or barrier to prevent movement from parking lot to parking lot.
And then the
On the west side.
dumpster is moved out to the west so that that landscape barrier can continue past the dumpster?
I think that's already addressed on the drawing. There's a block area kind of north of the west expansion. If you show a concrete area for the
Oh, that's where the dumpster's gonna be?
Yeah.
Oh, all right, thank you.
Park appears between the two western. Between the two. Okay, so the conditions would be as follows. Receive the variances from BZA regarding the side yard and parking setbacks, a landscaping buffer along the entire eastern side along with the 8-foot fence, receive the verified pond calculations, close the east side to pedestrian and vehicular traffic, and then parking barriers located between the two parking lots on the western side. Did I capture everything the commission stated? Is there a motion to approve with the conditions as stated?
So move.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, Jacob, whenever you're ready.
Ms. Schroeder?
Aye.
Mr. Klinger?
Aye.
Mayor Moon?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Diarmid?
Aye.
All right. And Mr. Russell, be certain to keep us posted once the construction is complete, and I'm sure we can help communicate any issues that we occur, okay?
Thank you.
All right, I'm starting to lose my voice.
And just to the management of the Moose, I guess I would like you to remind your patrons to control their trash. Thank you. I'm okay.
All right, we're going to take a quick 5-minute break.
Does that give me enough time to move my truck?
I get one every meeting.
Oh, I got one,
Oh, good.
meetings ago.
I'm not speaking for it, just what I'm hearing now.
We could table it. You gotta go and do it
Absolutely,
later.
and I greatly appreciate it.
Okay, yeah, we could certainly table that.
Okay.
Oh. Oh, we're taking a break?
I forgot to do that, and so I got the fire. I said, oh, I just paid it. But I paid it late, so I got another $25 late fee. And then I said, okay, enough. Then I gave that to the mayor, so you know.
How'd we do?
You agree with what we're doing? I didn't realize that had been brought up before.
Which one's that? What'd you say, Grant? You agree? Of all of them, I don't know any of them.
I think you're wrong. West McPherson.
Oh.
I think when the commission starts acting like an HOA, it also talks about water, and especially when you're. This is if you would have said no to that, if I was Yates, I would have walked across the courthouse and filed papers. Because they were well within the code. And then the funny thing is, he did the exact same thing. He was gonna take a couple of the units, make them 2 bedrooms, so.
But the planning commission has the authority to do that. It's written right in the regulations.
When you get into aesthetic things, what you like and what other people.
Aesthetics is 2-story versus 3-story, more than just aesthetic.
And Italian aesthetics was massive. That's just view, that's aesthetics in my view.
Well,
that's why you have 5 people on the board. That was part of the the first thing you try to do is change zoning, and we brought a site plan conversation into it, and so that killed, that made the zoning change really controversial. If you had just said, I want to rezone this back to a subdivided project, the zoning would have gone to the east. But because you had a site plan, people equate the zoning change with the site plan. And so we did kind of both at the same time, but the zoning went through it.
In my, I mean, I'm just brand new, so I'm trying to look at this. Is it already zoned?
It was office and institutions. But they're 2
What do we got left to do? We're on number 3.
I propose that I might possibly build this. Yes. But the thing is, if you rezone it because he's gonna build this, and then he goes back, it's still.
Jesus, let's get through this. So work, actually, work process pretty straightforward. Do you have any issues with work process?
No, there isn't even anything next to him. I can't go any further.
We're on number 3. Although we did 7, so.
We said we're gonna move to the ones, conditional use.
30 years later.
No, he wants to table that.
Oh, he wants to table it? Oh, I
He had
thought
to
he said
leave.
he was gonna do that next.
Oh, the outdoor storage at on West Main Cross. He asked me, he said he had to go, and he asked me if we could do it later. I said we could table it if we wanted to. And he said that was fine. Mayor?
Hey Dan, we're gonna rearrange just a smidge.
Hey, as long as I can make my noon meeting, I guess I'll be all right.
All right. So moving on. Well, I'll
No.
just real quick is Mr. Doug Andrus here?
He's over there.
Are you able to stick around?
Oh, wait.
He has to leave by 11:45. He said.
Okay, we'll go ahead and do yours real quick if that's okay with
Well, that's
everybody. Yeah, come on up. All right, item number 5.
That's not the guy that came up to me, though.
Application for conditional use CU-17-2023 filed by Doug Andrus for outdoor storage of merchandise at 1113 West Main Cross Street. CPC staff comments.
Okay, so this request is located on the south side of West Main Cross Street. It is surrounded by C2 general commercial. The parcel is within the 100-year floodplain, and the City of Findlay land use plan designates the area as neighborhood commercial. Parcel history: this site was most recently Dr. Outen's car dealership, which he established at CPC back in 2019. The applicant is proposing to convert the structure into kind of a flower garden art business. Along with this, he would sell things like firewood, Christmas trees, lawn chairs, and local art. This would involve having areas for outdoor display of merchandise as shown in the exhibit in the packets. While the Christmas trees and lawn furniture would not be in a structure, there would be times of the years where there's a kind of a hooped greenhouse. Staff would recommend that the greenhouse be no closer than 50 feet from the front property line. The Christmas trees could be allowed to be closer, but should not encroach on the 30-foot front yard setback in the C2 district. Conceptual drawings provided did show an increase in parking for the site. Well, that's kind of outside the review for conditional use. Staff would recommend that a striping plan be submitted to approve with the permits. This is a conditional use and is a revocable permit. If the city receives complaints regarding the outdoor display areas, they could review and potentially revoke the permit in the future. So staff recommendation: staff recommends approval of the application for a conditional use CU-17-2023 filed by Doug Andrus for outdoor storage of merchandise at 1113 West Main Cross Street with the following condition: that the greenhouse structure be no closer than 50 feet from the front property line, and the Christmas trees and other plants available for sale be no closer than 30 feet from the front property line.
Engineering.
No comment.
Fire prevention.
No comment.
So the recommendation before the commission is staff recommends approval of the application for conditional use CU-17-2023 filed by Doug Andrus for outdoor storage of merchandise at 1113 West Main Cross Street with the following condition: the outdoor display be well, that is different than the last one. It's time to go.
It's your granddaughter.
That the greenhouse structure It's all right. You know, I'm guessing that everybody's phones are going off saying you've been parked for 2 hours. So I apologize. The meeting's gone long.
No, I apologize.
No, you're good. It's okay. The greenhouse structure be
not
no
etiquette.
closer than 50 feet from the front property line, and the Christmas tree and other plants available for sale be no closer than 30 feet from the front property line. So overall, I'm fine with this proposal. As it was mentioned, this is a revocable conditional use permit. So, you know, my only concern is that the property be well maintained and we don't just have
Absolutely.
things displayed all over the place and it look disheveled. Is
I'm
really
gonna make it look good.
Yeah.
Guarantee you, I'm gonna make it look good.
But I definitely think it's nice to have some greenery in that area and hopefully a welcoming business as well. So other questions or comments from the commission?
Just as a point of reference, if I stepped it off fairly well or fairly close, 30 feet is about where the front of this house is, and then 50 feet would be back about here. So that
I'm a step ahead. I measured it out for us.
Oh, did
here.
you? Good.
So this red line, it's not.
With that one right there?
Yeah. So this red line ends there. That's approximately 50 feet.
Okay.
So staff's thought on that was the Christmas trees are there for a much shorter period of time. The greenhouse, we just wanted it to be less prominent. and
Right.
So we thought scooting it back an additional 20 feet.
Yeah, and there's plenty of room in there, and it's not a big greenhouse, it's just a small unit.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then there were some concerns about, really, you know, when it all boils down to is Main Cross is one of our entrances to
Right.
Findlay. And so we don't want people to have a negative impression of Findlay.
Nope.
So what it boils down to, in my opinion, is if you keep things very tidy and well kept, it will be a nice feature coming into Findlay. If the greenhouse is tearing apart and things are kept disorderly, then the city would have to revoke the permit.
Absolutely.
That's what it comes down to.
In fact, I agree with you 100% on that, because when you come over the overpass, you see a gas station, a monument, a cemetery, it's just blah. I want something to pop out there. I want something to make it look good. When they come over the overpass, I want them to say, hey, that's cool, I like it.
So on the site layout, signage is up here. What do we have in mind? Matt's ingrained in my head.
Well-
Signage conversation. So what are we thinking?
That's a great question. I talked to the monument company next door about maybe getting something made out of granite, low to the ground, so it's not, you know, just a sign sticking out of the ground. So that's a possibility, but I have to go through, he said to talk to you guys about doing that, getting that approved, because it would go right in that area right there.
Yeah.
So you'll need to talk with Eric behind us. He issues the sign permits, but the board will probably put the condition that it has to be a ground-mounted sign,
Yep.
not a pylon
No,
sign.
that's what I want, yeah. I want something ground mounted.
And it would have to be in this area here.
Okay.
That is city right-of-way.
Right, correct. Well, I know the monument company, I think they've got one pretty close to about the same distance right in there. So it would look symmetrical or to what they have.
Was there anyone else that wanted to speak for or against this item? The crowd is thinning.
Yeah. I'm just from my standpoint, I'm a little confused on
Sure.
some of the drawings here, Matt. It kind of looked like the property line was along here, but yet when we did this building, it seems to me this was on that property. Is that the case?
Same owner.
Oh, two different properties there by the line, but same owner.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a little confused at first too when I looked at the building here. It's got 1113 and this has 1115.
Okay.
I was like, did I do the right place?
Yep, same property owners.
Yeah.
Matt, with that, do we have to note in the permit that it would apply to both properties?
What we'll do is we'll have Dr. Broughton go over to the auditor's office or you on his behalf and combine the two lots if you're able to.
Yeah, I'll just he's my father-in-law. I'll have to talk to him, but I thought he had that surveyed out and combined, but I could be wrong.
Usually, it's just as simple as asking them to combine the billing.
Okay.
And that will essentially create the one lot.
All right.
Does this person here have access then through your property?
Yeah, that's kind of they do.
If
It's an odd setup is the way that's set up,
Yeah.
because the driveway, from what my understanding is, the driveway, there's a fence right back here, and it kind of goes, the driveway is ours, or is Dick's. But just to the left side of it, that would be the property owners to the west.
Well, that's this property here would be his only access. So if that's
Oh, yeah, I'm not putting anything there. Yeah, there's nothing going on.
yeah, but should that would there be an official easement through there or something?
I
mean, because even his
So I would say for today's conversation, since we're addressing just the conditional use of outdoor storage, that would again be a civil matter of them determining the easements and not pertinent to this conversation.
Okay, but I guess I brought that up because if he's combining the two lots, it would seem like that would be the appropriate time to get that squared away too.
I guess I'm not quite sure what the question is.
I'll guide him through the process to
Okay.
make sure that there's an easement there and whatnot.
Okay.
So that'll be taken care of.
Yeah, we just want to make sure that that property has access
Oh,
in and
yeah,
out of their
absolutely.
property, but
Yep.
that's
Yep.
for you guys to figure out.
You got it. Absolutely. Absolutely.
We've got enough problems. No, I'm just kidding. I will motion to approve conditional use CU-17-2023 filed by Doug Andrus for outdoor storage of merchandise at 1113 West Main Cross Street.
Second?
I would add the condition that it be a ground-mounted sign
And the 50-foot setback for the greenhouse.
and a 50-foot setback for the greenhouse.
I second that.
All right. Any other discussion on this item? All right, Jacob, whenever you're ready.
Mr. Klinger?
Aye.
Mayor Murin?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Garrett?
Aye.
Ms. Schroeder?
Aye.
And I apologize about the phone. That was
Oh, it's
that
all
was
right.
my alarm going off, telling me to go pick my granddaughter up.
Yep. Well, hopefully everything goes all right. We appreciate you being here.
That's the least of our problems.
All right.
today.
Sorry, we're jumping around here, folks. We're going to go back up to number 3. Application for site plan review SP-21-2023 filed by Workbrow for a 26,280 square foot expansion of their facility at 2500 Fostoria Avenue. CPC staff comments.
Okay. This request is located on the north side of Fostoria Avenue. On the north side of Fostoria Avenue, it's zoned I-1 Light Industrial. On the south side of Fostoria Avenue, it's zoned MH Mobile Home. It is not located within a 100-year floodplain, and the City of Findlay Land Use Plan designates the parcel as industrial. This site is currently the site for Workbrow. The applicant has requested a 26,280 square foot building expansion on the north side of the building. The main addition on the north side of the existing building measures 24,080 square feet. This places the expansion as far away from the roadway as possible. The existing building measures 38,550 square feet in size. Second addition on the west side of the building measures 2,200 square feet. This expansion will encroach on the side yard setback, which in the I-1 district is 30 feet. So that'll need approval from the BZA. Elimination of the land on the north side. With the elimination of land on the north side, 68 parking spots will be eliminated between this site and the site to the east. The applicant has indicated they will be submitting a site plan for a new parking area that will accommodate 72 parking spots. This will be reviewed by CPC in November. So staff recommendation, staff recommends approval of the application for site plan review SP-21-2023 filed by Workbrow for a 26,280 square foot expansion of their facility at 2500 Fostoria Avenue with the following conditions. Receive a variance from the BZA for the 30-foot side yard setback and receive approval of the parking plan by CPC.
Engineering.
Really, this is like Jake was saying, building expansion, no water, no sewer or anything like that. They are accommodating for the stormwater and that, so no concerns.
Fire prevention.
No comment.
Very good. So the recommendation before the commission is staff recommends approval of application for site plan review SP-21-2023 followed by Workbrow for a 26,280 square foot expansion of their facility at 2500 Fostoria Avenue with the following condition. Receive a variance from BZA for the 30-foot side yard setback and receive approval of the parking plan by CPC. Discussion. Dan?
None.
None. You're like, I'm done talking for today.
Yeah, we the owners know about the setback. Again, it's more logistically inside where it is. It is located right back here towards the corner of the pond. So again, they own this property. This is an unbuildable thing. We know it's a step that we'll go through. So really, I mean, we'll go through the procedures.
I was going to say this is a pretty simple one, so sorry it got shoved down the agenda. Yeah, I have no issues, and I additionally don't have really a concern with the setback variance either. I think that makes sense for the layout of the property, the surrounding properties, so I don't think it is detrimental to the site plan. So I would motion to approve application for site plan review SP-21-2023 filed by Workbrow for a 26,280 square foot expansion of their facility at 2500 Fostoria Avenue with the condition that they receive the variance for the 30-yard setback and receive approval of the parking plan.
A second.
Any discussion? Was there anyone that wanted to speak for or against this item? All right, we have a motion and a second. Jacob, whenever you're ready.
Mayor Maron?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Dearmont?
Aye.
Ms. Schroeder?
Aye.
Mr. Klinger?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Item number 4, application for site plan review SP-22-2023 filed by Charles A. Lammers Properties LLC for a new building for Blasius, I'm probably saying it wrong, so I apologize. Blasius countertops on parcel 560000177230 on Lots Street. Just CPC staff comments.
Okay. So this request is located on the north side of Lot Street, just west of the intersection with North Main Street. Parcel zone C2 General Commercial. Properties along North Main Street are also zoned C2 General Commercial. To the north, there's CD Condominium parcel. And the neighborhood to the west and south is R2 Medium Lot Residential. It is not located within the 100-year floodplain. Currently, the site is vacant. This applicant is proposing to construct a new building for the existing business on the abutting property to the east. This would be a 2,520 square foot structure located in the northwest corner of the lot. The applicant shows that they would be adding asphalt to match the existing asphalt of the abutting property. With the additional asphalt, they show that they have added detention to the north of the structure. They do show that they will be installing 6 arborvitaes in the northwest corner to provide screening. The code does require 4 canopy trees and 4 evergreen trees per 100 lineal feet of continuous boundary with conflicting zoning districts. This would mean that they would need 6 canopy trees added for the west boundary. Staff did not see any foundation plantings on the site plan. Code requires 2 shrubs to be planted for every 12 lineal feet of building circumference. This building has 212 lineal feet of circumference, so they'll need 33 shrubs to be installed. Foundation plantings can be grouped and extended around the asphalt if desired. And then one quick thing to add, Dan did submit elevations for the building. On the south elevation, they have the 2 overhead doors with a pedestrian door. On the north side, there's just a pedestrian door, and the east and west elevations have no features. There appears to be 2 color tones between the base of the elevation and the upper part. Staff would recommend that for the pedestrian entry that there should be emphasized with either an overhang or a change in roof pitch to using a separate dormer style pronunciation as prescribed by the code. And we would also recommend either windows or other features to create some horizontal articulation. Lastly, instead of maybe doing the color change on the elevation, staff would recommend that we would like to see a material change to help with the vertical articulation. So going back to my printed comments, so staff recommends approval of the application for site plan review, SP-2022, 22-2023, filed by Charles A. Lammers Properties, LLC, for a new building for Blasius countertops on parcel 560000177230 on Lot Street with the following conditions: install 6 canopy trees along the west boundary and install 33 shrubs for the foundation plantings.
Engineering,
No additional comments or concerns.
fire prevention.
No comment.
So the recommendation before the commission is staff recommends approval of application for site plan review SP-2022 filed by Charles A. Lammers Properties LLC for a new building for Blasius countertops on parcel 560000177230 on Lot Street with the following conditions: install 6 canopy trees along the west boundary and install 33 shrubs for the foundation plantings. Dan.
With regards to the landscaping, talk to the owner, that's not an issue. What we would like to have a little bit of latitude working with the administration. Currently, right now, you can see the homeowners here have agreement to kind of just park here, nothing in writing, nothing paid or anything like that. And the way their backyard is there's really only an opening right back in here. And a lot of times what they'll do is they'll come back to access the outside their fence. So we want to work with those owners on the location and plantings. We do realize that we need to screen between the differences. But again, adding the additional trees and the shrubs, not a problem. Just like I said, we can work out with the first meet with the owner, find out kind of how they would like it. Their house and fence is very, very close to the property line. So again, we want to be sensitive to that. We don't want to feel like we're encroaching on them or, quote, closing them off. So that's not an issue. Working with foundation plantings and stuff, we do have some areas, but we want to kind of maybe throw some out here again to kind of break up the front. You know, if we throw all 33 in the back, it's not going to do any good. So we'll work with, trying to create some foundation landscaping there. With regards to the, I guess, the architectural, we can follow what the code requires. Again, we're starting to see a lot more of these steel buildings being constructed for commercial use. They did have the color differential at the base. I guess maybe they missed the projection over the entrance and stuff like that. But again, we'll work with the administration to get that taken care of.
Dan, can you just tell me briefly what is done in this operation? Is it just storage or is it cutting or kind of?
My understanding, and the landowner is here, but it's just going to be basically more of storage. I believe anything. Do they do any fabricating on site?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind coming forward and introducing yourself, sorry.
Yeah, again, it's just they don't do any cutting on site. They bring it in, and it's more of a sales.
The only cutting they might do would be if they have to trim something off, but that's about it.
Who are you?
Oh, I'm Andy Lammers. I'm sorry. Charles, I apologize. And they do all the work up in Michigan. They do all the measuring here. They send all the measurements up to Michigan. They cut it, bring it down, and they install. And so what they do is they do install, well, I should say they get the material here, store it here until it's time to go out to the job site. And so that's really what they basically do. It's pretty simple stuff.
Is that operation taking place currently in the front building then, and you're moving it to the back?
Well, they store it in the front building, yes.
Oh.
And that's where they store their vehicles and all that. And so this would be for their vehicles to store out there. When they get a shipment in from the semi, they can store it in that building. And then maybe, hopefully someday they will start expanding their showroom out into the current area, and everything will go out the other building. That's kind of the plan, but hopefully that works out that way.
So is the dumpster location changing, and can we get an enclosure around that?
the location is not changing.
No, that's going to stay the same.
I guess if you're requiring us for the
I mean,
enclosure
I don't.
around it,
Oh,
I mean, we can.
can we do that, Matt? I mean, is that something? I mean, I know it's an existing, but we're,
Where's the current dumpster? I'm guessing it's
it's out in the middle.
Property right there.
right there. I think you can. My gut reaction is it's akin to requiring something to this building when we're really talking about this building. So,
Say what?
Yeah, we typically
It's kind
enclose
of a-
dumpsters. I
kind
don't
of a
know.
gray area.
Consider that, I guess, if
Yeah,
you're.
across the back, arborvitae, yeah.
He said he'd be okay, doing some shielding on the backside with some arborvitae or something like that to kind of give more of a visual barrier. Dan, if that
Well,
helps.
on the back side, there's already a fence there. I guess I was thinking more.
While you guys are
Yeah, I don't
pondering that, that would be ideal, but I kind of agree with Matt that I think that that's
Yeah.
something that really is kind of outside of this
Yeah,
discussion.
I'm kind of with it.
Was there anyone else here that wanted to speak for or against this item? I want to make sure I give everybody. So overall, I think that this looks good. I think obviously working with the adjacent property to screen as much as possible is ideal. I know the existing building meets the code requirements. I don't think it's the most aesthetically pleasing of buildings, so I think if there's any opportunity to make enhancements there, that definitely is preferred, recognizing that this, hopefully once you put this up there, it's there for a very long time, and we want to make sure that it is aesthetically pleasing, but it does currently meet the code, so I won't be too hardline on that. With that, I will motion to approve.
Real quick,
Excuse-
real
oh,
quick.
yep.
I don't want to. So architectural standards, we do have them. We had recommended a change of material. The code does not call for a change of a material. It calls for articulation. So, in our viewpoint, the changing of the color is articulation. It does call for some sort of entrance structure. So, I think if there can be some sort of, to meet the code, they're supposed to architecturally put some sort of entryway, some sort of, this is really big picture. This is a similar one that we approved. This is down by Emory Adams Park. So, the stone is not technically required. And then, so it doesn't have to be as grand as this, but I think it needs an entryway feature. And then we would recommend the sides with no windows, at least placing a window. It could be real or fake, just to give it some architectural interest. And if this was in the I-1 district and it was like work brow, the architecture of that does not matter, but both of these items are close to residential. So I'm not saying they have to build this, but there are, I think, an architectural entry feature, and then at least the side that's facing the residential having a window or two, real or fake.
So,
and just to be correct, this faces lots or lots. The garage doors face the residential street.
Correct.
No, that will be loads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the doors.
So
So
this elevation faces the residential and this faces the street. So I think we put some sort of architectural item here in the front and then a window or two on that side.
So in my motion, I was going to include install 6 canopy trees along the western boundary and install 33 shrubs for the foundation plantings, as well as work with HRPC staff to ensure it meets code for architectural standards. Would that be appropriate?
I think that'd be fine.
Eric, would you like to say something?
Yeah, is there a office in this structure or not? Or is it just an accessory structure to the other building?
Hopefully we'll be putting an office in there because, you know, be able to communicate with the front office, stuff like that, yeah. So
Okay.
if they take and move everything out of the front building, put it back there, they'll need an office back there.
Okay, much like we do with the other building that he was showing, we just got to make sure that there is an office space when this is built, or that has to be combined because it's an accessory structure to the building. The lots would have to be combined. So that stops from having an accessory structure or a garage on a lot by itself without an office space on it.
So Eric, you're saying if we put in an office space in it
Yes.
now, then it
Yes.
doesn't be combined? All right, we'll do that.
Would that also have to include a restroom?
I don't remember what we required in that Midwest, but if the answer is yes, according to Jacobs, yes.
So we put an office, we gotta put in bathrooms and stuff.
So, yeah, I mean, it's either considered a primary structure which stands alone or an accessory structure. If it's an accessory structure, these two need to be combined. If it's standalone, it should have office and restroom.
Make it standalone.
Okay.
Yeah, they said they can put a restroom in and stuff in there, which Jeremy will work with you guys on all the tap permits and everything.
Okay. All right, so I will motion to approve application for site plan review SP-22-2023 filed by Charles A. Lammers Properties LLC for a new building for Blasius countertops on parcel 560001772230. Excuse me. On Law Street with the following conditions. Install 6 canopy trees along the western boundary, install 33 shrubs for the foundation plantings, and work with HRPC staff to ensure it meets code for architectural standards, and then work with engineering to ensure it's the standalone structure.
Okay.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Very good. We have a motion, a second. Any other discussion on this item? Hearing none. Jacob, whenever you're ready.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. DeArmond?
Aye.
Ms. Schroeder?
Aye.
Mr. Klinger?
Aye.
And Mayor Murin?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving down to item number 6, application for alley vacation AV-01-2023, filed by Paul and Brenda Miller to vacate the remainder of the east-west alley between Lilac Lane and Western Avenue north of Coventry Drive. CPC staff comments.
So originally, the right-of-way was part of the plat for this subdivision. The eastern part of the alley was vacated back in 2021 when a list of neighbors requested a vacation up to a certain point. So staff analysis, during the staff review of the alley, there is an existing storm sewer that runs through the middle of the right-of-way before turning north. Discussions between HRPC and the engineers office determined that there would need to be an easement for in that area, and that structures would not be encouraged over the sewer. That being said, staff would recommend that the alley remain and that the city work with the property owners to take care of any maintenance issues with the trees. So staff recommends that Findlay City Planning Commission recommend denial of the application for alley vacation AV-01-2023 filed by Paul and Brenda Miller to vacate the remainder of the east-west alley between Lilac Lane and Western Avenue north of Coventry Drive.
Engineering?
Yeah, so if it is vacated, like Jake said, I would have to have an easement down through there, utility easement, because of the storm sewer, which is pretty much going to be the same size as the alley. But, if it is ultimately vacated, I would need that.
Very good. Fire prevention?
No comment.
So the recommendation before the commission is staff recommends denial of application for alley vacation AV-01-2023 filed by Paul and Brenda Miller to vacate the remainder of the east-west alley between Lilac Lane and Western Avenue north of Coventry Drive. Sorry, you guys have had the pleasure of sitting through this very long meeting. If you want to come forward and talk a little bit about your request.
I do.
And if you could introduce yourself as well, please,
I'm
sir.
Paul Miller, my wife Brenda. I want to thank Jacob, Matt, and Eric. They all worked with us really well. So I hear you talking a lot about all the aesthetic, eye-pleasing, A lot of the areas behind the houses that aren't too eye pleasing. But I do understand the easement. I get that 100%. I do have one question. Well, two, really, a comment that we're not going to run this in the paper because we couldn't get a quote on how much it would cost. And
To that point, they did not receive, they received about 3/4 of the people affected by this signed, but they did not receive all those.
Correct.
And so the ordinance, which mirrors the Ohio Revised Code, says that it says, pretty much it says the applicant then has to advertise it in the newspaper 6 times over 6 consecutive weeks, which the current rates are skyrocketing to do those advertisements. So I just wanted to give the context of.
Right. So the one question that I have is, and I do understand the easement. Unfortunately, the people behind us didn't take care of the property. I go back there and I take care of it. But we were kind of wanting to move our fence back a little bit further. Since there's an easement, can I move my fence to the other side of the alley and put 2 12-foot gates on each side so you can have passage through? Is that possible?
I'm not in favor of that. We've ran in that before where we've have gates, we have fences actually over top, and then, if I ever have to fix that line,
It doesn't
then,
hurt to ask.
right, it's just, then I'm going to have to tear it down, and then, we wouldn't be putting it back up, so I just try to avoid as much as possible.
Okay, that's fair enough. That's
Yes.
really all I had.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you had to sit through it because I know you guys have been talking to the team and kind of knew where we were on
And
this.
it cost me $100.
Yeah. So with Matt and Jacob, Eric, I know obviously if there are issues with maintenance problems, things like that, please reach out to Eric in zoning and we can try to address those with, everybody's responsible for maintaining that area.
I do have one other comment.
Yeah, of course.
When we were going around getting the signatures, at least one of the people on Yates, he had a tree that he said, I've been trying to get this tree cut down for who knows how long, and it's on the easement. And he says, he calls somebody in here, I don't know who it is, or not necessarily in this room, but, that's not our job, we don't take care of that. It would be very helpful if someone would say, I don't take care of that, but if you call this fellow, maybe he could take care of it for you. Instead of just the blunt, I don't do that.
Yeah, well, certainly I'd be interested to know who he's speaking with because that's not how we operate. So if you would like to have him call my office, we can have somebody go out and take a look at
I'd
it.
really prefer not to talk to him again.
Well, I can assure you he's not calling my office. And
Do you have that address?
or if you can give us a call and let us know the address later, that would be very helpful. And we can go take a look at it.
That'd be fine.
For sure.
That'd be great.
And we will look at refunding your application fee
Oh,
as
you
well.
don't have to do that. I'm not.
Well, we understand it's, typically when we have situations like this, we do try to refund it when
I'm
you
gonna spend
aren't
more-
successful.
I'm gonna spend more than that at the casino.
Yeah.
Well, so
Oh, perfect.
So an alley vacation goes to City Planning Commission here, and it also goes to Planning and Zoning Committee. It's going to go to Planning and Zoning Committee. And if it receives 2 recommended no's, then it gets read at City Council and it's done. So I guess you have a choice. It can go to Planning and Zoning Committee in 15 minutes here for discussion, or you could withdraw it, and that may help your case with a refund. I just wanted to, this still moves.
Whichever way you guys want to do it. $100, the $100 doesn't mean much to me, but I didn't want to spend any more, but.
Yeah, so.
And Planning and Zone, I'm looking at you, Grant. Planning and Zoning Committee may have different thoughts about this alley. I know there's some real advocates for vacating alleys, so I'm not sure how that conversation will go. But there is no way around the 6 required advertisements in the newspaper.
I don't want to do that because I don't know what the cost is.
Yeah, okay. So if you don't want to have to do that, if planning and zoning would recommend yes, he would be required to do that, correct?
Well, I'd say if he wants to continue, if he wants it to continue, if they say yes and he fails to do that, then it eventually fails.
Just dies. So if you would like to, if you don't want to have to deal with that, that's up to you. But as Matt said, if you want to withdraw it, you can withdraw it, and then we can refund your fee.
I'll leave that up to the CFO.
Well, we haven't taken a vote on it.
Well, there's another committee, so this is merely a recommendation, and there's another committee at noon that also makes a recommendation. But, so, if at noon they say yes, then it forwards to city council. At that point, it will not move forward at city council unless you do the 6 advertisements. So there's no world as the code's written that you don't have to do the 6 advertisements.
So if you don't want to do that, what we're saying is if you would like to withdraw instead of just have it denied, then we'd refund your $100 as well. Or you can do that, that's fine.
And that starts in 15 minutes right here.
Well, we won't put you on the spot, but I think here
And we can talk after the meeting too.
Yeah, that's fine, because they can withdraw at planning and zoning if you'd rather. So I will motion to deny the application for alley vacation AV-01-2023 filed by Paul and Brenda Miller to vacate the remainder of the east-west alley between Lilac Lane and Western Avenue north of Coventry Drive.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Oh, Jacob, whenever you're ready.
Mr. Jarman?
Aye.
Ms. Schroeder?
Aye.
Mr. Klinger?
Aye.
Mayor Murin?
Aye.
And Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Very good. All right, seeing no other items on the agenda, the October 12th, 2023 meeting of the City Planning Commission is adjourned. Good work, team.
Ready for lunch now.
Yeah. Which ones are going to planning and zoning now? The Moose? This is,
I think this one too, right? For zoning amendment, does it go to planning and zoning next?
oh.
It seemed like there were a bunch of them.
Morning. How are you?
Yeah, that's got BZA. That goes to BZA.
It's a marathon today.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Gotta be prepared, huh?
Yeah, but a lot of them were site plans.
Is this
Site
isn't.
plans don't come to
Well,
them.
those are fun.